Mated to the Dark Elf by Celeste King.
Book 1 of the Dark Elves of Protheka series.
The Worlds of Protheka YouTube channel releases new free full audiobooks every day.
Unfortunately, some of our content is too spicy for YouTube to handle.
That's why we're giving you the chance of a lifetime, snagging the unabridged version of any Worlds of Protheka audiobook at a discount.
That's right. Any audiobook you see on this channel is also available at worldsofprotheka.com, where YouTube's guidelines can't stop us.
Just use promo code YouTube30 at checkout and watch the numbers disappear. Protheka is full of magic after all.
Don't forget to subscribe and show your support by hitting that like button.
Thank you for choosing Celeste King's Mated to the Dark Elf.
Chapter 1. Amelia. It feels like my birthday. It's not that I'm excellent at keeping track of the days from the window of this little room. Hardly a room at all, I have to admit. No, it's a feeling I have in the pit of my stomach that's growing more sour with every passing day. The tension of my keepers, getting impatient as I come of age. I must be 20 by now, though the seasons have drifted by like the clouds above. Meaningless. I lean against the narrow frame of the window, watching the street below. It's my only entertainment here. The lone book they gave me weathered and worn from too many read-throughs. I already know it by heart. They don't think humans need much to survive. This place is little more than a cell, a toilet, a bed, a sink. Enough to keep me alive, and little else. It's not unknown what the Dark Elves do here, at Club Lamour. I've heard the screams for years, of plessure and pain. I was brought here as a child, under the impression that it was safe compared to the rest of the Empire. But that is not the case. They refuse to tell me why I haven't yet been thrown into the pit with my friends, to be played with by their patrons until I expire. I've heard stories from Honey, and have seen the marks. I've waited in this room for years, biding my time until they decide to drag me out and submit me to their wicked whims. Every day I have to wonder, is this it? There is a strict order in their world, the upper caste of dark elves that rule over everyone else, and their appointed talents, from artists to warriors and minor nobles. The lower caste, merchants and labourers and even criminals have a place in their society. Humans and the other species don't even make the rank, existing beneath their feet, entirely at the mercy of their dark magic. We subsist as little more than pets for their amusement. I am worth only what my master can sell me for. Swift footsteps sweep past my door, making me cringe. It is not often the Dark Elves come down this hall, but when they do, it is smart to be afraid. Hopefully they pass by without a word. I would rather miss a meal than come face to face with a Zagfer, Dark Elf servants with a heavy chip on their shoulders. They do the club master's bidding without hesitation, but there's a gleam in their dark eyes as if, without their shackles, they're capable of greater evil than even their master can imagine. I shudder at the very thought of them. Another set of footsteps closes in, and I brace myself, listening for their passing. But instead, they stop at my door. Again, I have to ask myself, is this it? When a heavy knock jars me from my focus. Amelia, comes a deep and grating voice. I say nothing. A key scrapes the lock, and the knob turns. It opens to one of them, just as I feared. He says nothing as he takes me in, his hard eyes roving over my threadbare clothes, concealed by the washed-out robe I use to cover myself. I tuck it tighter around my chest, as if to hide my frame from him, but it does nothing to deter his hungry gaze. What do you want? His grin broadens, his massive frame barely fitting in the room as he enters and reaches for me. I'm too frightened to pull away when he grabs me by the arm, jostling me and forcing me to my feet. Even as he drags me out of the room, I try to secure the robe that slipped around my shoulders. My voice quivers when I dare speak out against his handling. What's the meaning of this? Where are you taking me? He says nothing, my heavy boots clomping harder than his fine leather soles, though he's easily twice my height and 3 times my weight. I am not prepared for whatever they have planned, though I've been waiting most of my life to find out. My limbs are weak from years of captivity, and my knees give out on me. But the dark elf won't let me collapse, his grip too tight around my elbow. The sounds of couplings are louder here, and the smell of hot flesh and sin is noxious. I can barely breathe as he drags me through their menagerie of rooms, some doors open to reveal the goings-on inside. I catch only glances, but the images sear themselves into my mind. A woman is shackled from the ceiling, her body strained between heavy manacles, and I know she must be in great pain. It's a hard contrast to the gratification blooming over her host's countenance. In another room, several dark elves are crowded around a human who can't even let out a scream. Is that what will happen to me? Of course not, comes a small voice inside of me. I am the most expensive pet here. They will reserve me for something far worse, I'm sure. The thought brings tears to my eyes, blurring the horrible display as I am dragged toward the front of the building. A human male nearly bolts from his captor, only to be dragged back in by a heavy dark hand. Even as he struggles, I understand the gleam of fear in his eyes as he stares right through me. I want to puke, but showing weakness will only make my punishment more severe when it finally comes. I have to remain stoic and silent among the worst of it. The hot panting of a dark elf as he mounts one of the unconscious humans echoes in my mind, even as we turn down another hall, away from the gruesome orgy. I can breathe a little better here, though the air is still thick with the reek of sex. The Zagfer catches me by the nape of my neck and leads me forward, his grip tightening as we near the master's office. A chill runs up my spine as I tear out of his grasp and turn to face him. He may be doing his master's bidding, but he is not my owner, and I will not be treated like a pet by him. Get your hands off me, Zagfer. He takes no offence to his title, measuring me up and licking his lips. Disgust finds me again, and I straighten. What is the point of being the most sought-after pet if I am subjected to the whims of the master's servants? He wants to sell me to the highest bidder, and for that, I need to be pure before they put me on the auction block. I bare my teeth at him in the only language they know and grab the handle to the master's door. It will never be your turn, I say with certainty, stealing the smug expression from his face. He glowers at me as I turn the handle and enter. I am pleased with myself until that too is stolen from me.
Chapter 2. Karl Ishiraya. The silence of my study is a blessing. It is free from the fickle emotions of court and insulated from the whims of my family. Many in my position might have abused the authority of it by now, but I'd rather be studying the royal accounts hidden away in my private chambers. My brother, the king, respects my wishes to a point, but he insists that I still make appearances from time to time, so our subjects don't think I've disappeared entirely from proper society. They'll begin to wonder and talk. It's the talk that I hate most. Even those I respect are prey to it, where I am immune. It is no wonder why, however. We all know the story of how I was forced to seal away my emotions because they were simply too powerful when tethered to my magical abilities. It's easier this way. I prefer it not having to worry about the subtleties that plague every interaction as the Archduke of my brother's kingdom. They will say one thing and mean something entirely different. They should simply pass around a ledger and sign their names under friend or foe so that I know which to trust and which to have executed. I don't enjoy parsing through their words like puzzles to be solved. Numbers make more sense than they. A soft knock at my door makes my shoulders tense. I say nothing, in hopes that it is a stray Zagfer who will leave if I do not respond. The knock comes again and I sigh, surrendering the pages to my desk. Go away. The door opens a crack, and I realize it cannot be a servant. A servant wouldn't dare disobey an order from the Archduke. So it must be one from among my family, coming to pry at why I have not left my chambers in days. His presence is subtle but unmistakable. Cousin, comes his silky voice, don't these walls grow tiresome? They suit me quite well, actually, I grumble, lowering my head as if I am engrossed in my work. though I am the furthest thing from it. His very presence raises my hackles. Don't you have some party to attend in the city, Karisu? Not without you, Kral, he says, levering off the wall and making himself at home in my study. He falls into one of my favorite overstuffed chairs and runs his hands up the arms. When I turn to glare at him, a smug look has taken over his dark face, and one leg is draped lazily over the other, his fine shoe waggling impatiently. Come out with me tonight, I insist. Insist all you like, I respond. I much prefer the company of my books. Which have been balanced and balanced again, he cries, slamming a fist against the padding of the chair, hardly making a thud. You have not been seen in public for over a fortnight. Do you even exist anymore, cousin? The other nobles are beginning to question it. I straighten the pages in front of me and sigh, considering what my brother had told me not so long ago. I cannot make you do anything, brother. But please, for the sake of our family, you must uphold our social status. An archduke that doesn't ever socialize is not a proper archduke at all. You are an extension of us, and should flaunt our power and influence among the higher caste. There is a city for you to explore. Explore it, and carry with you our name and pride. I scoff under my breath, shaking my head. Explore, huh? What was that? Karisu asked, leaning forward in his chair. Out of all our family, he always had the keenest of our sharp elven ears. You admit it, then? You will come out with me? I said nothing of the sort. That smile is back as Karisu flashes his sharp canines. I have just the place in mind for you, cousin. Maybe it will liven you up a bit, and bring a healthy flush to your cheeks in the process. He stands in a sweep of his finely cut surcoat and offers a hand. The women will fall at your feet, and mine too, if you make an appearance. With the utmost consideration, I return the sheaves to their binder. I have no interest in seeking out trouble with you on the streets of Voig. You have friends who would gladly... But they are rats! Son of Kusheng that can't even vote in Parliament. They are nothing in the light of you, O great Archduke of Voig! He closes the distance between us and grabs my shoulders, nearly shaking me with his frustration. What can I do to convince you to leave this hovel? I push him away. Go bother someone else. I will hear no more of this nonsense. Karisu doesn't accept my answer, spinning me around by the shoulder. There is delicious food among the Zagfer that you have never even tried. I sweep his hand off my shoulder. Great treasures to be bought on the black market, he insists as I adjourn to my closet. And women, cousin. Oh, the women. I have no interest in love. My cousin scoffs. Who said anything about love? I stall as I reach into my wardrobe. I'd happily leave my study if he were to remain behind. You speak of the skin market, then? A most deplorable pastime. How many slaves do you own now, Karisu? Ah, but they break so easily. They must be replaced on occasion. His little value of human life almost makes me disgusted. Almost. I have no time for your games, I say, donning a sleek black cloak, my last resort to lose this philandering cousin of mine. If your business is done, I really must ask you to leave. Karisu troubles himself with fastening the clasp of my cloak like a Zagfer, patting it down until the folds are smoothed out. Come with me, please. I don't want to go alone, and I will get a better price if you're sitting beside me. It will only be for a little while, and then you can return to your study. The king, long may he reign, will be satisfied with your attendance in public. You need only sit there and watch the proceedings. I meet his eye and scrutinize his mercurial features. Who told you? He shrugs and withdraws with a dismissive air. The walls might as well be made of paper, cousin. You should know that by now. And besides, it doesn't matter who told me. We are all family here. We are hardly family. Then let's change that. He links his arm in mine like a close friend, though he's antagonized me for as long as I can recall. I want to know what you fancy and what makes you smile. I've only ever seen that scowl of yours, hiding much emotion, I'm sure. You know better than that, I say, though I can feel my will crumbling. I could blast him out of the third-story window with just a pulse of my magic, but I don't have it in me. Why are you so insistent? Because I fear you are drifting away from us. He leans in and lowers his voice. And so does the king. Soon the whole of the city will suspect it too, and your position will not be secure. Even the king cannot guarantee your protection. You know that. But if you make the occasional appearance, you'll show them that you are a dark elf to be reckoned with. He stares hard into my eyes, searching for something that has long since been locked away. You don't even need to flaunt your magic, he continues, adjusting my cloak again. You need only attend. A long sigh escapes me, and my jaw works in consideration. Just this once. Carisu's features light up instantly. I'll take it. I chew on my lower lip in true resignation. My cousin certainly has a way of wearing a soul down. When did you say you wanted to leave?
Chapter 3. Amelia. I walk into Rakis's office with my head bowed. I don't want to show any signs of defiance here. My life may be horrible, but it can always get worse, especially in a place like Lamoué. Amelia, it's lovely to see you this evening. How are you faring? Very well, thank you. And you? The look in the manager's eye hints at one of the ways my life could get so much worse. We exchange pleasantries because that's expected of me, but I know what he really wants. Frustrated. Any other girl called in here would take this as the signal to bring him to bliss. And while his nakedness and lichenous stare make my skin crawl, I know he would never dare to touch me. I'm too valuable, untouched and pure. I'm one of Lamoué's select stocks. At a young age, with a little bit of divination magic, they select those who will grow up to be the most desirable. We are sequestered away from the rest, and our training is a much different matter. While others are taught how to perform carnal acts, we are trained in dancing, music, singing, and other forms of entertainment to keep our dark elf masters entertained in between whatever debauchery they have planned for us. The manager gives a sharp whistle, and then another woman comes into the room, crawling on all fours like a dog. I keep my face serene, but my heart aches for her. Honey wasn't selected like I was. I don't know when the training starts for the others, but by the time I met her, she already had the lifeless stare of someone who begs for death, knowing they'll never get it. I'm also ignorant of exactly what she's gone through. I only know of mine, but while the exact nature of our torments is different, we both hate this place and hate men like Rakis with every fibre of our being. I don't know if mutual seething hatred of someone is the best basis for a friendship, but it's how our companionship started. It's something that will be expected of me when I'm sold, but to maintain my purity, my lessons have never been hands-on, so to speak. I've been made to watch it often. I've seen enough blowjobs to know that Honey's technique is flawless, wet and sloppy, but not excessively so. Her breath control is admirable, something that makes me wonder how well she'd do playing a flute made of wood instead of flesh. I have trained on illusions, and to be sure that no one is tempted to trick me, most of those I've cast myself. They're minor illusions, but I'm apparently quite adept. But the praise for filleting phantasms does little to stop the way my stomach turns at the thought of actually having to do it to a real person, to whichever dark elf happens to purchase me for the express purpose of deflowering me. I mustn't move. I want to rush to her, beat him back, pull her free and give her air, but our lives are not our own. But he doesn't even notice her. His eyes are locked on me as he licks his lips in carnal hunger. You're now 20 years old. The time has come to serve your purpose. Prepare to be auctioned. Even though I knew this day was coming, and I was almost certain this was the reason he called me in here, the word auction hits me like a blow to my chest, driving the breath from my lungs, causing me to gasp. I have to figure out a way to escape. But how? I've been trying to figure out how to leave this damn place since I could form conscious thought, and nothing has ever presented itself to me. You must prepare yourself to perform for your audience. My head snaps up and I look at him, half dazed. Perform what? How? If they want me to sing or dance, even something salacious, that would be preferable to having to display other skills. They certainly wouldn't have me have sex with a real person in front of a gathering of dark elves, but I might be ordered to do something unseemly with an illusion. Suddenly, Rakis is on his feet. He moves so fast Honey doesn't have time to move and he kicks her out of the way. I open my mouth to scream. In anger or in fear, I don't know and don't have the time to even figure that out before he pushes something into my mouth. I feel it burn as it dissolves on my tongue. What did you give me? I ask. But it's an automated response, a question that was formed in my mind and on its way to my burning lips before the warmth had finished spreading. I don't know where it comes from, just that everyone calls it heat for the sensation and the effect. It could be a plant, or maybe just pure, perverted magic distilled. All we know is that it acts as half sedative, half aphrodisiac. It's used to make human sex slaves more compliant. And that's what I am, a slave here about to be sold at auction to the highest bidder who will do the 13 knows what to me. And the worst part, now that the heat has taken hold of me, my mind and body are at war. I want to be revolted by the thought of some dark elf using my body for their pleasure, but my body screams for it. Rakis just grins at me and then calls the guards in to take me away. I gasp as their hands seize my sensitized skin. I want to struggle, but my body wants them to touch me more. I hate how much I want it.
There comes a time when you must sacrifice everything for something bigger than yourself.
My job was to kidnap her, not fall in love with her.
What if Julius had seen me use magic? He must never know.
What's happening to me? What's happening to my magic?
He would never understand. He'd see me as a liability, a risk too great to keep close.
When everything begins to fall apart, and the only remedy is to sacrifice your heart.
No, I can't let him find out.
I propose we take Dukan out of the picture, permanently.
Please, don't do this.
You will never escape me.
I can try.
You will fail.
And that time is now.
Savannah, run! Chapter 4, Karl Ishiraya. I immediately regret agreeing to go out with this bunch. I linger at the back of Karisu's pack of overly loud friends. They're rough and obscene and vulgar. I wrinkle my nose as one of them jostles into me, looking across their playful punches with a bored expression. I want nothing more than to go home, but they keep talking about how the place is full tonight and how much fun they are having. They laugh in a way I've never been able to, and for a moment I just watch them. People have told me before that it's weird when I do that, but I forget. I lose myself in evaluating them, trying to understand something I have no means to, when Karisu leans over to me. You have to stop staring at them like you might murder them, he murmurs. I won't. I lack the passion to do something like that. You know this. I raise my eyebrows at him. Yeah, that emotionless stare is what freaks people out. Just try to keep your face neutral and not stare at anybody too hard. He slaps me on the back. Let's get you a drink and loosen up, eh? We're going up to the VIP lounge. I choose not to tell him that I have no interest in going to the top floor of this building I'm being dragged through. Floor after floor exposes all that the Lamoué has to offer. I swallow back how little I want to push through this building, seeing only reminders of why I had never come here before. In fact, I had always avoided this place because, while others see fun, I see a mess that I don't want to touch me. The Lamoué boasts its abundance of humans to torment or screw, but it makes no sense to me. The hours of rutting don't bring me satisfaction, especially when I can fulfill my needs with a willing elf. It seems that I am the only one that doesn't derive any pleasure from bullying these humans, and I have to assume it is because of my distance from emotions. No matter what it is, I know that I won't be having any fun tonight. I make a mental note to bring this up to my brother. It's proof that I'm making an effort, even if everyone gives me a wide berth. I think they can feel how different I am if they don't recognize me first, and I don't mind. It's better than being brushed up against naked bodies that I wish I didn't have to be near. I recoil from the humans in the halls, many attached to elves using them for the night. I've always avoided the creatures since they came. I have plenty of servants already, and I've found no need to deal with the new race that everyone has exploited. Don't be mistaken. I don't care what other people do. That's none of my business. I just keep away from them, and until tonight, that's gone fairly well. My cousin has now thrust me into the throngs of these humans, the La Muer being full of them. On top of that, the smell of semen, sweat, and urine saturates the air, and while the others comment on the activities available for the night causing these scents, I just feel dizzy. I don't know how it's not affecting them, but I need fresh air. It's the only thing that keeps me moving up through the floors as the stenches grow, and the entertainment turns even more twisted. Relief bursts through me as we arrive at the VIP box. It's on the upper floor, and it's so exclusive that few people are up here. The guys are so excited they don't seem to notice as I hang back. I let them go into the room while I linger in the hallway. The air out here isn't tainted, and for a moment, I want to cleanse my senses. It's really been a waste of a night, and I question again why I even bothered to come out. I know my brother would never force me into anything, but I want to appease him. Honestly, I thought by now I wouldn't be upheld to traditional standards. Having a social life isn't reasonable for someone like me, and I thought that others would have seen that by now. Doesn't appear to be that way, though, so I find myself considering my options of whether I'll join Karisu and his friends or head home and send him a Zagfer to tell him. Before I decide, I hear a loud commotion coming from the other end of the hall. My curiosity piques, and I head toward the noise of thrashing and arguing. As I turn the corner, I spot two dark elves dragging a human woman between them. She flails against them, but her movements seem weak, even for a human. I stand there wondering what they are even doing with her, as she doesn't smell disgusting like the others when her eyes lift to me. Something strikes me deep in my core as I stare at her, and my breath catches in my throat. My chest constricts, and my feet seem rooted into the ground. Her eyes are a crystal clear blue, so icy that they nearly look translucent as they watch me. I find myself frozen underneath her gaze, and I swear time itself stops in her presence. It feels like everything about her engulfs me, and I no longer can hear the roar of the people on the other side of the door or smell the sour scents of the building. No. All I can see or feel or think of is her. I've never felt something so all-consuming like this, and it's like my soul is being sucked from my body as she passes by me. My body aches to go to her, but I don't move. For a fleeting moment, I swear I don't remember how to. I would have stayed there all night just staring at her, letting her gaze pin me in place if it weren't for the dark elves. They drag her around the corner, breaking our eye contact, and it jerks me out of my daze. Still, I don't move, even as my senses come rushing back in. I can hear and smell everything again, and I even take a few stumbling steps forward. Her gaze has left my body feeling tingly and off-kilter, which is extremely unusual for me. I'm known to be so disciplined now, but the way my heart is pounding and adrenaline is rushing through me proves that something revolutionary has just occurred. My mind replays the scene over and over as I try to make sense of it. It's been so long since I felt anything remotely close to that, and I need to understand what happened. How did this human pull that out of me? What was she? My body starts to burn with a fire that I don't know how to tame as I think of her, and the only thought that I can process is that I need to go after her. I'm not sure if what I just experienced was pleasant, but it was more than the usual numbness that I have grown used to. I ache to understand it, to explore it more, but I have waited too long. I pace down the hall, but I have no idea where they have taken the girl. It seems that my questions are answered as the room below roars to life, announcers shouting. Normally, I would ignore such a commotion, but with my body heightened and my head in such a weird place, I find myself rushing toward the VIP door. I'm not sure why, but I thought that maybe all that noise could actually solve something for me.
Chapter 5. Amelia. My breath catches, but this time it's not the aphrodisiac that was forced into my mouth by my master. It's a pair of gorgeous, multifaceted eyes staring at me through the throng of Zagfair. I don't get a chance to memorize their face before I'm hauled off to the auction room. But those eyes remain with me, flecked with gold and green and purple. I couldn't forget them if I tried. They were the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen. Who was that? Dizziness grips me again, and I pull against the offending vice. It's a hand clasped securely around my arm, long fingers wrapped tightly. Another clamps around my left arm, as if they're escorting a prisoner, and not the master's prized pet. If I could only focus, then maybe I could get away somehow. The thought dies out as they lead me closer to the double doors, the hot reek of dark elf and sex growing closer. But fear is ebbing. I can't afford to be afraid right now, though their horrible drugs have fogged my brain. No matter how I struggle, their grasp remains secure. I am a willow in the grip of a storm. Nothing I do has any effect on the Zagfers, who tower easily over my diminutive form. This is the moment my life has been leading up to. This is how they will make use of me. And all at once they toss me forward onto a hard wood surface, the sound of metal striking in a cacophonous clatter around me. I can hear the crowd in hushed excitement. Another hand slips around my arm and lifts me up, but this one is gentler by a small margin, feminine with long nails that threaten to dig into my flesh. Be a good girl, someone murmurs into my ear before lights blind me, and a collective cheer rises up around us. I am pulled taut against a female dark elf, who is dressed as if for a ball, her dark hair looped intricately in a tight webbing bun. Her dress is sharp, so I'm surprised I don't feel the bite of the fabric against my bare flesh. Patrons and honourable guests, she begins, smiling pleasantly at the gathered dark elves, so I could almost imagine she might be friendly. She is very beautiful for a dark elf, but she is an agent of great evil, and I know she sold many humans on this stage to new owners. Welcome to Club Lamour. The crowd cheers again. I think she must be a favourite, but I realise most of their eyes are on me, appraising me. One scarred dark elf pipes up before the female has a chance to start the auction. Show us what she can do. That smile widens. Patience, my loves. If you are the lucky soul to win this prize, you can find out yourself. I shiver in her grip. She is so deceptively pleasant, it hurts. I avoid the audience's cruel glances, already feeling my cheeks burn with anticipation. Around my wrists are shackles I hadn't noticed before, that bite my skin with cold electricity when I adjust them. Magical shackles? Did they really need to be so thorough? Let's start the bidding at, shall we say, 1,000? The crowd explodes with shouts of higher numbers, and their host can hardly keep up, pointing a long finger at each patron in turn until the bidding settles to properties rather than money. I have a spare castle, one cries. It is not worth more than the merchant's strip, shouts another. I can feel the tension from my place on the stage. These nobles would be at each other's throats if they did not have to feign at civility. I grit my teeth as the stakes rise, unable to focus on any of their voices as the dizziness grips me again. I can feel the drug coursing through my limbs now, making them weighty and useless. A fleet of my finest ships, a noble barks, drawing the auctioneer's attention. Can anyone best such an offer? The patrons settle at the massive sum. A fleet of ships could make any dark elf ascend to the highest echelon of noble society. How could I be worth so much to them? That's when a gruff voice cuts in. A diamond mine. I can feel the bite of the auctioneer's nails as she takes in the offer, and I follow her gaze to Baron Cleopold, who already has 2 human women in his lap. I shudder at the thought. Even I know about him. He's known for his cruelty and how quickly he goes through women. My knees begin to quiver, and I suck in a breath, though it does nothing to bring oxygen to my head. There's no way I can escape if he gets his hands on me. The Baron kicks his legs up on a human male acting as his footstool, who is chained to the floor. He strokes one of his female's backsides, hard enough to make her whine. I can hear the sound as if I am right there, all else falling away. He tilts his head at me as if curious. There are already bruises darkening her cheeks and ribs, only a hint of what he's capable of. That's when I finally realise that he had intended to buy me, all along, and had been biding his time until the other offers had run out. He must have made a deal with my master. The air has left me as if by enchantment, and my skin grows numb. A whole diamond mine? The auctioneer sounds impressed, though she keeps it muted. Why, my dear Baron, do you think she is worth so much? I have others, he says offhandedly, his fingers digging into one of his women's throats until her breath is cut off. I wonder if he's mimicking my own fright, his gaze boring into me with unconcealed glee. A small price to pay for that little treasure. I am eager to see what she can do. The auctioneer simpers. Are there any other offers? She asks of the crowd. Anything to beat our honourable Baron Cleopold? The room goes deadly silent. It is clear they've found a limit to my worth, though it is still impressive. I've never heard of such a high value for a single human life. We are disposable to them, mere toys to be played with until we break. I never expected to see my 25th year, and now I doubt that I'll see my 21st. The dark elf female is about to announce his winnings when the VIP door bursts open and a figure in the doorway draws everyone's attention. It's difficult for me to swallow, feeling the edge of death so near my throat, but I look with them to see a dark elf emerge. He is one of the more handsome dark elves I've ever witnessed, striding out in a sharp black coat and fine silk accents, paying no mind to the other patrons. There's someone else beside him, slinking and grinning. I don't recognise the younger one at all, but it's clear he is a member of the royal family. It takes me a long moment to finally recognise the intruder, but when I do, I can't stifle my gasp in time. Isn't that the Archduke?
Chapter 6. Karl Ishiraya. I hate that I was right. It's the first time I've ever felt that, but for once I determined the outcome of the situation in hopes that I was wrong. On one hand, I have found the girl. On the other, she is in a rather unattainable place. The commotion roars on as the girl is thrusted farther forward on the stage, the light illuminating her stumbling body. I can tell something is off with her from up here. I keep my face blank as I rest my forearms on the edge of the rails, refusing to give away anything happening underneath. I've never struggled before to maintain such a neutral expression. It's usually the #1 complaint about me. As tension wraps around my core, though, I find it harder and harder to keep my body relaxed. I hope it looks like I'm watching the show with vague disinterest when in reality, my heart is pounding as I take it all in. What is wrong with me? I want to pull my hair out as the adrenaline courses through my veins. My body is on edge, and I almost feel like bolting downstairs. To do what? Even I'm not sure. I can't fathom any of the emotions pouring through me, and the more I try to untangle the mess, the more confused I become. The way my stomach tightens as people comment on her makes no sense to me. Why should I care what others think about this human? I do not know her. I know nothing of any of the humans here, and I've always tried to keep that way. More than that, why do I have the ability to care? I normally feel a disconnect between me and everyone else. Even my brother, who I know cares for me, can't stir anything inside of me. It's not because I'm cold-hearted, but the way my emotions were sealed. If I'm feeling all of this, the intrigue and tension and flicks of anger, what can that mean? Is the magic wearing off? Is the woman not human? I don't realize I'm holding my breath until someone steps up beside me, breaking through my thoughts. What's wrong? I turn to see Kurisu staring at me with interest. He offers me a drink in his hand and I take it, swirling the contents. I'm just taking it all in. The VIP box, he says, taking a sip from his own glass. He nods like he had just said something profound, and I act as if I'm following along. It gives a great view, huh? I make the mistake of letting my eyes drift back to the girl below. He catches it, following my line of sight, and then he grins. Oh, this is what has your attention? He raises his eyebrows at me and I look away, refusing to answer. That doesn't deter him as I see his smirk deepen out of my peripheral vision. He looks back down at the woman on the stage, letting out a low whistle. Your brother said it wasn't much of your thing, but it looks like you picked a good one. He elbows me in the ribs and, to my surprise, I have to suppress a snarl. I didn't pick anything. My voice is steely and low, too much so for it to be normal. Kurisu doesn't notice. He just keeps going, not noticing the way he is pushing me. I don't blame you for being interested. She's definitely been cut from a higher grade than any human I've ever been with. Long forgotten fingers curl around my core, and an internal battle rages within me. No one else notices, but how would they? They expect me to feel nothing. So why in the abyss do I? Thankfully, a marquee cuts in before Kurisu can do any more damage. She's spoken for. My cousin turns toward the elf. What's the point of the auction, then? The elf creeps closer. She was sold privately to Baron Cleopold. You know how he likes to flaunt his possessions, and she is to be his newest one. My eyes drift back down to the auction that is carrying on. Elves are bidding on her, but looking closely, I can see the smug smile on the Baron's face. You'll notice there aren't many nobles down there tonight, the Marquis continues. They all know that she was never truly available. Soon the other dark elves will too. I'm shocked by my own words that stumble out of my mouth. What if someone outbids him? My eyes slide to the Marquis. The Baron has already named his price, but there are others down there that can top it. The Marquis clicks his tongue. You know how the Baron is. He takes what he wants and doesn't like when others get in his way. It's been said that anyone that goes against him tonight will not only lose, but he will also refuse to sell them magic stones again. A harsh laugh works its way up my throat, and Kurisu blinks in surprise. The curl to my lips feels foreign as I ask, who does the Baron think he is? How dare he think he can threaten the higher members of our society, the highest aristocrats that are here? Baron Cleopold does own one of the biggest magic stone mines in the city, my cousin counters. He supplies a lot of nobles, and if he wants to block anyone from his stones, it would hurt them significantly. My eyes go back to the bastard grinning happily below. I haven't seen him talk once as he soaks in the energy in the room, and between his smug look and Kurisu's words, heat snakes up my spine. I don't even realize it as my hand tightens on the glass in my hand, and the shattering sound sends a dozen heads swiveling in my direction. Oops. My eyes remain on the scene below, no one having noticed my outburst. I take in the girl, who is visibly paling under the Baron's gaze. I purse my lips as I watch, trying to ignore the way my heart squeezes violently. I've never felt this suffocating feeling before, but it only worsens as the Baron's eyes narrow in on the woman. He has locked her in his gaze, and I can see the way that her hands have started to shake from up here. I swear I can barely breathe at this point, and I shouldn't be feeling any of this. It's driving me mad, stoking the fire in my belly that should be forever extinct. How is this happening? The moment in the hallway earlier flicks through my mind, and I'm forced to wonder if the way I feel has anything to do with her. It's her that my thoughts keep going back to, my mind dissecting everything I can about her in the brief interaction I had. My body seems to process it all before I make any decisions, and without realizing it, I'm heading back to the door. I can hear Kurisu behind me, but I ignore him as I spot a staircase built into the wall. Where are you going, cousin? His cries cut through the shouting and music, but I ignore him. I can't stand up here any longer. I feel like I'm going to lose my mind just watching the scene below unfold. Ignoring the fresh air I thought I needed to calm myself, I pound down the steps that empty out onto the floor below, blood roaring in my ears. It doesn't feel like I even have control over myself right now, but I don't even care. All I can think about is the girl on the stage, my eyes focused on her as I hit the ground, shoving open the door to the VIP box. The more distance I remove between us, the calmer I feel, and I can't stop myself from diving into the crowds that I normally avoid. My intrigue is insatiable, and I'm letting it guide me tonight.
Chapter 7. Amelia. A heat builds in my cheeks. I can't tear my gaze away. No one else seems to be able to either, gaping at the newcomer who has stolen the show. But he isn't just any newcomer. He's the Archduke. There's no doubt in my mind any longer, with the way the others have crowded around him, vying for his attention. There's something about him that calms my racing heart. I can't put my finger on it, but I can tell by the way the crowd reacts that I'm not the only one who feels it. He has an aura that attracts the others, his dazzling looks only adding to his noble disposition. And I have to wonder if not all dark elves are quite as bad as I've been led to assume. He ignores their vies for attention. I suck in a breath, trying to master the aphrodisiac in my system. I don't know where I end, and the drug begins. My head lolls forward dangerously, even as the auctioneer forces me to straighten with a jerk. "Keep your head up, human," she hisses at me, her eyes never leaving the Archduke. "Do not make us look bad, you little witch." A small laugh escapes me, and I dare to scowl at her. But she doesn't see it, and I lose interest almost as soon as the expression dawns, because he's coming straight to the stage, blocked by the Baron, who has managed to rise from the comfort of his human seat. The women have scattered, disappeared among the dark elves who swamp the Archduke with praise and attention. Even my master has emerged from his offices to attend to him. "Archduke, what brings you to my humble establishment this evening?" The Archduke's lips are pursed as if he's barely tolerating their doting. I've heard of him in passing, but even his portrait does little justice to his gently sculpted countenance. And his eyes are mesmerising, those same gorgeous eyes that I'd seen through the haze of delirium. He is also the king's brother, with nearly equal authority to his kin, though I faintly recall that he's not one for public events such as this. I wonder if he's come to buy me. After the Baron's high offer, I know it would be a better wager if he were to outbid him instead. Maybe he would use me, but he is not shrouded in scandalous notoriety, and I'd have a chance, perhaps, to escape. But when his gaze lands on me, all other thoughts vanish. He is not like the others. The air has gone out of the room, and I can hardly breathe again, but this time I feel different, charged with excitement and dread all at once. Hope, even, which is a rare commodity in the Lamoué. Its foundation was built on misery. Still, I feel that rare hope swelling in my chest. The Baron has lost interest in me for their notable guest, still vying for attention. They all are, treating him with the utmost respect. There's a distant pang in my heart as I realise how different we are from one another. These elves would never stoop to grace me with that sort of respect. Not in a million years. And yet here they are, prostrating themselves at his feet for a glance or a word from the Archduke. That's when he finally speaks. "I would like to make a bid," comes his profession, which hushes the crowd in an instant. The Baron's eyes narrow as he glances at me, though now he looks a little worried, and it makes my heart leap with a strange sort of excitement. The auctioneer purrs as she speaks. "Oh? And what is your bid, Honourable Archduke?" He locks eyes with the female elf, who grows uncomfortable beneath his singular attention. A diamond mine is quite a treasure, sure to make the club's owner a rich man in no time at all. But I have the sole clearances to an untapped Neptherium mine, not so far from here. My surveyors have assured me that it will reap no less than £1,000 of the rare element, and likely much more than that. Even his speech is eloquent, filled with purpose that makes even the Baron choke on his pride. I feel privileged to be party to this rare exchange, even as I am the subject of it. I can't even imagine the wealth that his magic stone mine would garner. It is beyond my humble status. I take in the gawking expression of my master in the crowd, but it is the collective gasp that drives home the true value of his offer. No one in the room can best it, and even before the auctioneer calls the bid, I realise I belong to him now. He steps up to the stage as the audience recovers from their shock, his gaze roving over my face and form, though it is not a salacious sneer like the others. It is so intense, I'm surprised I have not combusted, but I can't look away. "My Archduke," says the Baron, disrupting the tension. "You need not put yourself out. Withdraw your wager, and I will gift her to you freely as a sign of goodwill to the crown. It's the least I can do, and it would be an honour." The Archduke's hand cuts through the air, silencing his protests. His presence is electrifying, and my every hair stands on end. This isn't real, I think. This can't be real. But when the Archduke speaks again, it rattles my bones. The crown requires no gift that it cannot obtain by its own merit. She is mine to purchase. The Baron gapes again, and while the rebuttal is satisfying, I can't enjoy it. Instead, I'm petrified by the Archduke's attention as he levers up onto the stage with practiced ease, standing taller and more formidable than he seemed at a distance. Sweltering in his shadow, I dare to meet his gaze. The crowd murmurs with salacious whispers as he takes in his winnings. I struggle to stand my ground as the auctioneer speaks too low for the crowd to hear. "It is a wager we cannot refuse, Honourable Archduke. Rakis would be a fool if he did. She is yours." Her hand slips off my arm, leaving me to stand alone on the auction block. Her words don't seem to register with the Archduke, as if he's too engrossed in his victory to care. The strain of the magical shackles keeps me in place as my heart gallops wildly in my chest. I can feel its pounding in my skull as my instincts are telling me to flee. That's when a terrible fact hits me. I remember how the elven women whispered about him in the halls when they thought no one was listening. My knees quake, setting the warning shocks off in the cuffs at my ankles. My mouth goes dry. "He has no emotion," comes the words from long ago, a distant memory perfectly preserved. He feels nothing at all, no joy or sadness, and neither lust nor mercy. Is it too late to beg them to take me back? Can the Baron rescind his defeat and raise the stakes? But I forget that I am just a prize, already won by the Archduke. And those elven women must have been lying, because though his face reveals nothing, there is an intensity in his eyes that is unmistakable. A wild flurry of emotions passes behind his white-hot gaze, none of which I can even begin to name.
Rosenfire, our family holds great weight and power in Orthani, and yet I hear whispers.
Do you think he can take him?
There is no way that this could happen.
No, more books. I can't remain locked in this ivory tower a moment longer.
She's perfect. The Baron's daughter must be found.
Julius, we shouldn't.
Why shouldn't we?
I am not a full dark elf. I do not possess their ethereal beauty. How will I find a mate?
The lowly Baron's son apparently has shown that he has the same gift of fire-wielding as I, if not stronger.
I am the family's dirty little secret. I am not the future of the family. Dukan is.
This world was created from a seed of evil.
I propose we take Dukan out of the picture, permanently.
Please, let me go.
If you want to join the poor humans who are bought and sold in the markets on a daily basis, you will find a way to get there.
I am free, and I am terrified.
You will never escape me.
I can try.
You will fail. Get Seasons 1 and 2 of the Dark Elf series from worldsofprotheka.com.
Protheka's magic is eternal. This series will show you why.
Chapter 8. Karl Ishiraya. She is filthy. This whole place is filthy. But I have not been able to take my eyes off her since they dragged her onto the stage, clad in threadbare clothes that don't suit her milky curves. Even though she's a human, she dared to protest in her own, small ways. Now that I am this close to her, I'm content in the fact that I wasn't mistaken. This human is beautiful, so much that it makes my hard heart riot against the suppressing magic that is held for most of my life. Too powerful, comes the echo of our father's warning. It must be quelled. This human slave, however, does little to calm the blistering emotions thrashing inside of me, and the magic swells, crackling at my fingertips. I want to touch her, but I dare not. She's already being burned by the magical shackles that have left marks around her delicate wrists and ankles. I cannot stand it, pivoting before she sees my look of pity and snapping my fingers. Ren, collect my winnings. We're finished here. My servant Ren does as he's bid without question, though Karasu falls on me immediately, looking as if he wants to strangle me before Rocky's cuts in. He reeks, having occupied himself in the short bursts he was alone, but I stop myself from curling my nose in his direction. Archduke, please, I interrupt gently. Call me Karl. Karisu is about to erupt, but even he can't ignore the rules of polite conversation. He's too well-mannered to do so, and will wait until I am finished with my business. Was this not what he wanted? For me to participate in society? Rocky's eyes bulge at the offer. Karl, my liege, we are honored by your presence. Follow me, and we can begin the transfer. Right, I say, the edge of my voice not lost on the owner. The control over my emotions has since slammed down over my features, revealing nothing other than muted boredom. Let's be done with it. They're all sweating at the prospect, but Rocky's handles himself well enough under the pressure. I do not mean to question your judgment, but are you certain you wish to trade a raw Neptherium mine for that little thing? I'm sure I can fashion a better deal for the crown. It sounds as if you are questioning me, I say evenly. Are you rescinding your offer? No, not at all. She is yours, untouched and waiting for you when you return to the castle. Rocky's looks a little pale for a dark elf. We just need to transfer the title. Please come to my office and we'll get it sorted. No need to put yourself out, I say, not wanting to remain in this place any longer than necessary. I slip open my vest and find the host of titles I keep on my person for just such an occasion, and lazily flip through them until I find the property I'm looking for. By the time I pull the correct one, my name is already fading from the document, and his name burns into the signature line. It is already done, Rocky's. He accepts the title reverently, looking it over before staring up at me. So, it is. Karisu remains agitated at my side, and I can feel the words waiting to spill out of him, but he bites his tongue. I'm not concerned about one little mine. I own half in the kingdom already, and though Neptherium is rare indeed, this particular mine is fraught with danger. An orc settlement resides next to it, which will complicate its attainment. It would take no less than a small army to secure the location, and I don't care if Rocky's is capable of it. I have my prize. Then our business is finished, Rocky's says, his eyes glowing with greed. You have a wonderful evening, Archduke. He bows deeply, but I'm already turning to the exit. This place smells of misery, and I can't stand it. Karisu does not hesitate to pipe in as we walk in stride. Cousin, he whispers, leaning into me. You're making a mistake. Am I? I ask airily, already considering what I'll do with her. A Neptherium mine? You could have gifted it to me instead, and I would have procured for you a harem of beautiful women. It is too much. And see how Rakis rubs his hands. I will never hear the end of it. And what of your brother, the king? I purse my lips shut, not wanting to hear another word from him. But he doesn't take the hint, going on anyhow. You still have time to change your mind before you leave this place. Rakis is a thief, a filthy larcenist that has reamed you of a valuable asset. It will not make a difference, I say, as we finally step into open air, where I can breathe again. Wren is waiting for us, having already secured our parcel. Have her brought to my quarters post-haste, and do have her cleaned up. Gently. I do not want my new merchandise injured. I think about it for a moment, then add, and blindfold her. I have heard it calms them. The servant nods and departs. I look to my cousin, who is currently questioning my sanity. He cannot hold his tongue now that it has begun to wag. You must think these things through. I've heard enough. My mind is made up. Karisu grimaces. I do hope you know what you're doing, cousin. I take my time, dressing down into something more comfortable before seeking the woman out. At first, I figure it is just my high education that calls to forget nothing, but as I linger in the washroom, I realize I'm stalling. She is just a human. I shouldn't overthink such things. With that thought, I slip into my bedroom, where she is seated on the bed. But she does not see me, a silk ribbon fastened around her eyes, though she is not bound any longer. And the marks that were made by the shackles are gone. Wren did well to have her prepared for me. Even as my steps are soundless, she turns her head in my direction. I take her in, from her dimpled knees to the heavy leap in her throat. Her full lips part, and her breathing comes faster. Somehow she knows I'm here, though her senses have been dampened by the blindfold. A smile finds me. Tonight, despite others' protests, I have done what I wanted, and it pleases me more than I have ever thought it could. It is not something I am accustomed to. I'm used to working for the crown day and night, tucked away from the world. But now, I've brought a piece of the outside world back, and time will tell if I've not made a grievous mistake. Something inside of me tells me that is impossible. Nothing about her indicates deception. She has remained a prized creature for so long, I doubt she even understands that she is a captive any longer. I draw closer so as to better take her in, and my steps betray me. The female lets out a tender gasp before speaking. Who is it?
Chapter 9. Amelia. Eyes open or shut, the view is the same. The cage they have gently set me inside is comfortable, but covered with a magic cloth that steals away any light. I can't even see the tips of my toes, much less the path to the Archduke's estate, which is probably the point. Elves seem to be paranoid as a matter of course, and I try not to think about how often this cage has been used. The heat they gave me earlier during the auction has started to wane, and it now makes me woozy as the cage rocks back and forth during our travels. I cling to the cushioned floor and focus on breathing until it finally passes. The carriage slows. We must be near the estate. Panic stabs my heart, but I ruthlessly push it aside. Would I rather go to the Baron? I would rather go to no one at all. Bring her in here, a gruff voice orders. I am still in the cage, being lifted into a building I can't see, as though I am some sort of pet bird. The cage is set gently on the ground with a soft clink, and I am dragged roughly by the forearms. An elvish woman's nails bite into my skin as I escape the darkness of the cage. Stand. Halos of light echo in my vision, and I blink rapidly to clear it. Glistening white marble shines in the enormous room, and a crystal chandelier sparkles above us. It's so much light after complete darkness, so much that it's nearly blinding. The floor must be heated, because my bare feet are warm against the polished tile. I think we must be in a grand entrance room, or perhaps a ballroom. There is a fountain in the corner, where a female elf cheerfully pours water over another, and several cushioned benches sit in deep jewel tones. Off, a woman orders. Her eyes are like a bird of prey, and her hands tear my meagre robe off my body like talons. Nose wrinkling in distaste, she calls for someone to draw a bath. A bath. This room is grander than any I have ever seen in my life, and it's just a bathroom. No wonder the Archduke could afford to spend such a significant sum for me. The women drag me into the bath. Fragrant oils fill the air, and it's almost pleasant until I realise they intend to bathe me. My cheeks burn so furiously that I can see their red reflection in the polished stone. I can wash myself. Even in Lamoué I was permitted this small concession. I have been trained well in preparation. The woman snorts and refuses to release her hold on the soap and cloth. Archduke Ishiraya is particular. The other woman mutters something I can't hear and looks away, chastened at her fellow servant's warning glance. Unease prickles along my spine. I had thought myself saved from the Baron, but what if this elf is worse? They work together to wash my hair, and they are thorough but not gentle. I bite back a cry of pain as they forcefully comb conditioning oil through the ends of my hair once they finish cleansing it, and they wrap it roughly on the top of my head. One woman wraps my hair with a drying towel, and I almost sigh at the gentle warmth of it. I don't cry out, but her lips twist when her eyes meet mine. My comfort is not the priority here. Like most elves, she revels in causing me pain. I refuse to give her the satisfaction of a response. Come on now, girl. Up with you. I stand uneasily in the massive tub, and I look at anything but the woman who scrubs between my legs. There is a vase of rare flowers that floats above the sink. I've never seen such vibrant blue petals, and I wonder if they feel as satiny soft as they look. Her fingers clean my other hole, and hot tears of humiliation burn in my eyes, unshed. The bath is done. I am carried out of the tub, dried and drenched in oil until my skin glistens. I run the back of my thumb over my arm, expecting grease, but I find only soft and supple skin. What a waste. The elfish woman in charge looks at something shimmering in the other servant's arms. It's some type of cloth, beautiful and sheer. Light dances across the tiny crystals that have been woven into it, and it's difficult to tear my eyes away from it. Everything is so beautiful in this place. The servant approaches me with a cloth made with invisible string and strewn with glittering jewels. The women work in tandem to drape it across my body, as though it were some sort of dress. But it only serves to enhance my naked body. It's more revealing than any of the costumes I've seen at Lamoué. It's dazzling, literally. I can't look at myself for too long in the mirror without becoming dizzy at the play of light across my body with every slight movement. My thoughts race. If there is a time to escape, it is now, but I don't even know how far inside the estate they've taken me. Honey told me stories about girls who fled the club only to be eaten by enormous beasts that lurked in the forest or kidnapped by orcs. Would it be worth it for a fleeting moment of freedom? How sweet would the joy of flight be for a caged bird if it were eaten shortly after? It's too late. A dark cloth is draped across my eyes, and I am led out of the room, down a hall, and into another room. Plush carpet cradles my bare feet. I can see nothing, but I already feel that this room is different from the bathroom, more intimate. The women leave, and I am left in the room that smells of cloves and something fresh and masculine. My heartbeat thuds so loudly that I can hear it in my ears, and my fingers twist in my mockery of a dress. What's going to happen now? What a foolish question, I chide myself. It's not a question of if the Archduke is going to use me. It's how. I have seen so many depraved acts in the club. Honey told me that the Dark Elves love humans because they can do anything they want with us. Elvish women require certain decorum, but humans? If they like to beat us, they can. If they want to feed us water until our bladder bursts, they can. If they want us to lick the floor clean after a 20-person orgy, they can. We're toys, nothing but toys. Cautiously, I take step after step until I reach a wall. I run my fingers across it gingerly. I don't want to damage any expensive artwork or give any reason for punishment. Not that dark elves ever need a reason. I needn't have worried. No artwork lines the barren wall. There's only a dresser where the scent of cloves is strongest. The rest of the shelf is austere and cold, just like the Archduke had been. Emotionless, cold, impersonal. Beautiful, though. I'd never seen such beautiful eyes, the only hint that he had emotions. Or maybe I was only seeing what I wanted to. What would possess such a cold man to spend so much money to buy me? The thought makes my blood run cold. It must be something so depraved he would spend a fortune to do it. I touch cold glass and freeze. A window. Could I escape? I'm not even certain how far we are above ground. What would a caged bird give for even a moment of flight? Soft steps land outside the door, and I hear the rustling sound of soft silk. My hand lingers for a moment against the window before I take a step back towards the bed and sit, waiting for whatever is to come. Who is it?
Chapter 10. Karl Ishiraya. I know you're there. I can hear you. Her throat bobs as she swallows delicately. Are you the man who bought me? Her voice snags against that word, bought, as though tripping across a wire. Emotion bleeds into her voice. Curiously, something tugs in my own chest as she smooths the crumple of her chin. How strange. Since I was a child, life has felt as if I viewed everything through several layers of glass. I am separate, safe. I've almost forgotten what it's like to have that protective layer peeled away. I'm fully aware of my body now, whereas before it was merely a secondary consideration. But now my palms tingle and my heart races. I may have only an academic interest in her, but my body wants with an intensity that burns. I'm tempted to abandon my own bedroom, but curiosity keeps me still. What is it about her that affects me so strongly? It must be something to do with her human blood, I think, because no female dark elves have done this to me before. Fornication has been nothing but a physical consideration for me. Distasteful, but necessary. What do you want with me? Sorry for the interruption. I know you were gearing up for a steamy scene, but it's way too hot for YouTube.
If we want to keep sharing our stories for free, we have to abide by YouTube's guidelines.
To get the full, unabridged audiobook, go to worldsofprotheka.com.
Browse through unabridged audiobooks, countless ebooks and bundles offered at a discount.
If the thought of me whispering all the dirty details into your ear isn't enticing enough, use discount code YouTube30 to get 30% off of all digital products.
Story after story, audiobook after audiobook, the Worlds of Protheka are waiting for you.
Protheka's magic is eternal.
But unabridged, it's unforgettable. Chapter 11. Amelia. Was the Archduke here? My voice is hoarse from screaming. The only answer they give are pinched, disgusted glares. That's fine. I never expected to make friends here. A tray of food floats in from the hall, and the women prepare the small table across from the bed. The plates alone are magnificent, a crystal that's worth more than most homes, and the food looks luxurious. Fresh fish, colourful vegetables, a dessert that is literally sparkling. I've never even dreamt of food like this. I can't eat a bite. I'm sorry, I push the plate away. I don't have much of an appetite. It's Plinter. The servant with the largest scowl glares at me with glittering black eyes. Are you a fool, or are you trying to insult your betters? I have no idea what Plinter is. I struggle to take a small, appeasing bite. It's very good. It's from the dark seas of Perthos, she says. Dozens of ships are lost every season, trying to catch just one beneath the volcano. Why would they risk their entire ships for one fish? She studies me like I am a very slow student. The fish are worth more than any ship. I take another bite. The fish tastes excellent, but so do the vegetables and even the water. They've been infused with magic, I think, because my body feels stronger with every bite. I'm so confused. I've prepared my life with someone like the Baron in mind. I knew that my future would lie in the hands of someone who would use me for their own pleasure and hurt me for the same purpose. I'd never managed to resign myself to it, but I'd understood what lied in store. This makes no sense. My thoughts tangle and trip over each other as I relive his touch. Why would he touch me like that, and not ask for anything in return? Why am I eating a meal fit for a member of royalty? Anyone would be thrilled to be treated like this, but it must be some trick. Maybe it's part of his mind games, so I'll be completely demoralized when the Archduke reveals that he is just like every other dark elf I've come across, and probably even worse. Would you like more water? It pains the woman to ask me, but she still waits on me. Why? I have never seen another human with servants, much less elvish servants. The indignity is almost more than she can bear, and yet she bears it. Why would the Archduke demand this of her? He'd made me lose control earlier. He'd made me beg for him, and if he were to walk in the door right at this moment, I don't think I would want him any less. Why does he have such power over me? And why is he treating me like this? I've never known dark elves to be kind, and I've yet to meet a being more cruel. The Baron is the rule, not the exception. How much more horrible would it be to serve an elf as a human footstool once I've begged him, honestly, to take me like a beast? I swallow a lump in my throat along with a bite of fish. If he had been cruel from the start, I would have taken it well. But now my body is a riot of conflicting emotions, with fear and hate and lust all twisting around each other until I might go mad. I can't take much more of this. How many more nights of silence and thrilling touches in the dark remain before the Archduke shows his true self? Can I escape before he does?
As much as Samara and I want to finish what these two characters have started, looks like this chapter is about to get too hot for YouTube to handle.
Unfortunately, we have to pause here because their guidelines won't allow us to reveal the spiciest details.
To keep bringing you these free audiobooks, we have to follow their rules.
But don't worry. You can experience the full, unabridged version over at worldsofprotheka.com, where the boundaries of passion and fantasy collide.
Use code YouTube30 for 30% off any of our unabridged audiobooks set in the rich and immersive worlds of Protheka.
Protheka's magic is eternal.
With these scenes, it will be unforgettable. Chapter 12, Karl Ishiraya. I've heard cold showers are supposed to help with these urges. I can't remember where. It's not anything I've ever had to wrestle with before, but now I need to figure out how to get this under control. To get myself under control. By the 13, I can't figure out how to deal with this. I'm sure that my desires are no more intense than the average elf, but I have no experience to rely on. A young man growing up, as sudden and intense as these urges may seem, gets to at least experience the increase and can adjust over time. It might feel very sudden, but it's not. However, I'm experiencing an instant night and day difference, and I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. It's as though my entire world was turned upside down in the blink of an eye. I shiver as I step under the cold spray. Ever since my emotions were locked away, I've been an outcast, but I've been unable to care about being an outcast. It's given me a perspective on things. Watching people struggle with these desires has made them seem weak. Empathy might still be beyond my grasp, but I have an understanding now of how intense this can be. When they happened, I've always just ignored them until they resolved themselves or summoned an elf to fix it quickly. Everything is different now. I feel this persistent, throbbing ache. My heart is beating fast like I've just run for miles, but all I'm doing is standing still under the spray of cold water. The cold shower trick seems to be useless because I still have the burning need. I'm so hard it almost hurts. My body has never reacted like this before. This unbidden, persistent hard-on that refuses to go away is a new experience for me. A very disturbing and annoying one. And my mind, I don't even know where to begin with my mind. These thoughts and feelings are new. It's concerning because I know what my emotions slipping could mean. I have to keep them in check to keep my magic in check. It'd be too easy to hurt someone. I could barely contain myself before. It's never been a struggle in all my long years, and this is most inconvenient. She's just some human woman. There appears to be nothing special about her. No reason she should awaken these feelings in me that have been dormant since childhood. No, that's not right. My feelings overall have been locked away, but the emotions and urges I'm wrestling with now are far from childish. I'm more than aware plenty of dark elves have laid humans, but their motivations have been so base. Chasing pleasure, even if that pleasure is derived from the pain of others. I've never felt drawn to sadism. It's never risen to the bare minimum of dispassionate biological need I felt that prompted me to experiment with sex. And I'm an Archduke, so I hold myself to higher standards than that. I have to lead by example. Yes, the humans are lowly creatures, but there are better things a man of my status can do with his time than seek to harm a human simply for amusement. I don't know if I'd feel this way if amusement was not such a foreign concept to me. However, I like to think I'd still at least try to be a decent person without unnecessary cruelty if I had been capable of finding the thrill. But I was cruel to her. Perhaps not in the way many dark elves are cruel to humans, but what I did was a kind of torture, and I knew it, even as I did it. It felt good to make her squirm like that, to make her moan and beg, writhe. All of it. Why her? And why had I done those things to her? The questions keep circling in my mind. When it comes to a sexual response, dark elf women and humans are practically the same. I learned nothing new about the physical mechanics of female sexual reactions while toying with her, but I did it all the same, and I liked it. I shiver as my hand, almost unbidden, wraps around my shaft. Even before, it wasn't as though sex wasn't pleasant, but it was no more satisfying than a warm meal on a cold day. At this moment, this feels good, and I want more. I desire the sensation now. I'm half clumsy trying to find a pace and rhythm that feels good for me. I've never touched myself like this before. I've had no need to. But now I do. I picture in my mind with almost perfect clarity the things I did to her. Conflicted, I could maybe handle, but remorse is something else. I finish showering and then I try to use my magic to clean up the mess I've made. Sure, it's what the servants are there for, but this evidence of my lack of self-control could be quite damning. My magic sparks but fizzles as I try to get it to wipe the mess from the tiled wall. I dig back to some of the lessons I had before my emotions were sealed away. I have to focus my attention and bend the energy to my will. I take a deep breath and pull from the wellspring of power granted to my clan by the deceiver. Apt, it seems, as I use arcane energies to make it seem like I still have control over myself. My shame turns to ash and washes down the drain. I dry off and then dress myself in simple house robes. I'm too tired to put in much more effort. I take one last look at myself in the mirror. I don't look like a man about to lose control. There's got to be something else I can do to restrain myself. I look at my reflection, concentrating on those bygone lessons. I'm the master of my will. My will is the master of magic. I'm the one in control of the magic. I shall not falter. I repeat half a dozen other mantras into my reflection until I feel my familiar serenity return to me. I stand, and just as I open my door, I see Grimlock standing there, fist raised as if he were preparing to knock. "Hello, brother," he says with a smile, but I can see how it doesn't reach his eyes, and storm clouds of concern color his expression. I think we should talk. Chapter 13. Karl Ishiraya. "Why don't we go to my office?" I suggest. Grimlock nods and follows me in, and I take my seat behind my desk, fingers splayed out in front of me on the worn wooden surface. "What is it you wish to discuss?" I ask once he's seated comfortably on the other side of my desk. "I have some My brother pauses and takes a deep breath as if searching for the right word. Concerns about you. You purchased that girl at Lamoué. Yes, and that just seems out of character for you. No disrespect, but why are you wasting your time with this? It's certainly not a matter that a king needs to be concerned with. Besides, you've been encouraging me to go out and socialize with the other Dark Elves. Isn't that what idly rich Dark Elves do? Buy humans for amusement? Karl, you don't get amused. True, I say, trying hard not to think about how amusing it was to make Amelie squirm. But if I'm going to be part of high society, isn't it time I play along? Grimlock sighs. It's not that I don't want you to do that, but it seems like you dove into the deep end and things got complicated. How so? Karisu spoke with me. He's also concerned. He says that he told you the woman had already been spoken for. The auction was all for show. Baron Cleopold had already laid claim to the girl. What's so special about her that you'd risk upsetting a well-resourced baron by taking his bed wench? I ball my fist, squeezing as I try to suppress the rising urge to strike my brother and my king. What is wrong with me? Why should it matter what Grimlock thinks of Amelie? That is what she is, after all. A bed wench. It was what she was trained to do. Wasn't that why Baron Cleopold wanted her? Isn't it what I want out of her? Nothing. I just thought that the Baron needed to know he can't manipulate everything behind the scenes and expect to get his way. I lie. I don't make a habit of lying, but being known for a complete lack of emotional inflection makes me a good liar. My face is stone as my brother regards me. That might be a good lesson for him to learn. But brother, I'm not sure you're the one who should be teaching it. Things are tenuous right now. But aren't they always? True, but you're not usually the one to stir things up. Again, it's you who wanted me to socialize. Do you regret that? Should I stop? He pinches the bridge of his nose while staring at the floor, one of the telltale signs he's annoyed with me. My brother has always been patient, but patience has its limits, and I may be treading close to it. I start to wonder if I have to inform him about my raging emotions, but I keep my mouth shut. No matter how irritating this conversation is, I don't know enough yet to even explain what's happening to me. Irritation is another emotion I haven't experienced in years. I don't like it. I know, on an intellectual level, that given the information my brother has, he's acting rationally. But he doesn't know what Amelie stirred in me, nor do I think he wants to know how close I've come to taking her to bed. My brother looks up at me and says, I don't want you to stop trying to mingle. It's important, but it's just strange why you would choose this. I can feel nervous energy bubbling up within me, threatening to draw magic up with it. I need to move. Why don't we continue this discussion outside? You spend too much time inside. A kingdom needs its king to be in good health. Grimlock studies me with an expression I've seen him use before when he's been in council meetings, and he's been trying to gauge whether or not someone is preparing to stab him in the back, but he shakes his head as if to dislodge the thought that I seek to betray him. Sure, I could use the fresh air. He stands and we walk out of my office. Speaking of health, perhaps we should have you meet with one of the high priests, or a healer at least, just to make sure you're okay. I promise, brother, I'm fine. I may have been too harsh in my lesson with the Baron, but I'm still learning how this court intrigue dynamic works. I'm bound to make some mistakes. We walk through the gardens for a moment. The silence that used to seem so effortless now feels heavy between us. After a short distance, he says, Did you have to give up a Neptherium mine just to teach a Baron a lesson in court manipulation, especially when he's the one with the largest supply? There's no need to worry about the mine. It's not nearly as impressive as it sounds. I actually did us a favor by pawning it off. There's a settlement of orcs in the area that has made it difficult to even complete a survey. If anyone wanted to develop the mine, they'd have to deal with the orcs. Once you do that, you'd still have to deal with the monsters that live in the caves there. Really, the whole operation wouldn't have been worth the effort it would take to develop. Taught the Baron a lesson and offloaded a troublesome property in one swift stroke. I may have underestimated your cunning brother. You seem much more suited for court life than I thought. Perhaps I should give you more projects to deal with. I think if I were a different person, this would be the point in the conversation where I would laugh and attempt to self-deprecate. But truly, I'd rather see how this plays out before I attempt to engineer a brilliant maneuver to undermine our rivals. What about building up our alliances? He asks. I raise an eyebrow at him. What do you mean? Our kingdom lives and dies by the alliances we hold. Although it's known that you are not going to be a love match to any of the women from the other houses, you are still the brother to the king. You could cement a family bond to make us stronger. Talking with Grimlock, I'd almost returned to a state of serenity. But the idea of marriage causes my gut to twist. But I say nothing and let my brother continue. House Zenvrath doesn't have much station at court, but they control rich farmlands and have countless human slaves. Tynva Zenvrath is the eldest daughter. Not that it much matters to you, but quite comely, and from discussions with her father, very devoted to her house. I've heard of Tynva and seen a portrait. She seemed tolerable. Had my brother mentioned this a week ago, I wouldn't have been excited about it, but gone along with the plan. Well, I wouldn't have been excited about any match, but at least the very idea wouldn't cause my throat to tighten or make me feel like I was suddenly being trapped. But things were different for me now. Instead of just an obligation, this feels too confining. Being joined to Tynva feels wrong, a betrayal of something in me that I'm only now beginning to understand. I'm sure that after an heir and a spare, you wouldn't even have to spend all that much time with her, Grimlock continues, oblivious to the fact that he's thrown my world into complete chaos. If I did this, what would become of Amelie? The next question that comes to mind is, why should I care? Why do I care? What in the Deceiver's name is wrong with me? So, brother, what do you think? Grimlock asks.
There isn't much left of the world after the orcs came.
Savage. Brutal. Merciless.
If you're a woman, you're property. Even to other humans.
What happens when an orc stakes his claim on a human woman? Who would dare to stop him?
Me. Chapter 14. Amelia. Good morning, I say to the servant who drops off my breakfast tray. Her only response is a slightly surly grunt before she turns to leave. It's the best response I've gotten out of any of them so far. Maybe I'm winning them over. I haven't seen the Archduke at all since the night he teased me with what I thought were promises to come, which, before, I would have counted as a blessing. If he's not there, then I don't have to worry about being used or abused by him. But ever since he touched me, it's been hard to shake the desire for more. That is if he's the one who touched me. I was blindfolded, so I have no guarantee that it was him. But who else could it have been? I'm his after all, and no one else would dare toy with his possessions, right? Unless, of course, he was passing me around to a friend or something. Is that to be my purpose? Entertainment for special guests? I hate not knowing, and it's not like there's anyone I can really ask. I may as well be a ghost for all the interaction I get from the house staff. They bring me food on time, but there is nothing even resembling a conversation. My questions go unanswered, and even my attempts at pleasantries go unacknowledged. The only answer I ever receive is a firm no when I ask if I can leave my room. It's not that I want them to like me, but for some reason, their indifference still stings. I can at least console myself with the fact that it isn't harsh cruelty. I have nothing to do with my time. One day bleeds into the next. If not for the meal times, then I might have lost track, but I know it's been 3 breakfasts since my blindfolded rendezvous. I just spend most of my days trying on the barely there clothes they've given me and staring out the window. Without much else to occupy my mind, I can't help but default to the desire that was firm in my mind before more carnal needs were awoken: freedom. I didn't set out to plan an escape route, but as I watch the comings and goings of the dark elves outside my window, I notice the places in the street with blind corners, or where people gather and don't. Patterns start to emerge. The people of the city seem to have very regular and regimented lives. At night, many of them just head to their homes, and there are entire parts of the castle that look almost completely deserted. There are guards who patrol the areas, but they walk a very precise circuit, and if I count steady, I can time when they reach certain points. If I were criminally inclined and knew how to pick a lock, I could probably pilfer so many supplies, maybe even wreak havoc. Unfortunately, lock-picking or destructive magic weren't among the lessons I learned at Lamoué. But I do see where, with the right timing, I could have an unbroken path to the wall, and I could perhaps slip through one of the less trafficked gates. Or maybe it'd be easier to blend in with the crowd. Either way, that'd take me outside to the forest, and from those woods, I could follow the river and go almost anywhere, even to the mountains beyond if I were feeling brave. While the elf maids have nothing to say to me, my status as a ghost means I have plenty of time to listen to their conversations. They do speak fearfully of the monsters that live in the mountains, but it might be worth the risk. When night comes again, I press my ear to the bedroom door. Much like the outside, the guards inside are very predictable. When I hear the first evening patrol round the corner, I open my bedroom door just a crack and peek out into the hallway. Just as I suspected, it's empty. If I'm careful, I think I can at least explore the house a little. Maybe if I understand the layout of my opulent prison, I can formulate an escape plan. I'm not entirely sure what I'll do if I'm caught sneaking around, but I can't just wait around forever. I have to do something. The timing of guard patrols appears to be so precise that just by ducking into an alcove and letting a guard go by, I can have a few uninterrupted moments to listen to the doorways and peek around corners. I find one door that's been left open just a crack and look inside to find a room with a large desk and several shelves of books. It's too small to be the castle's library, but perhaps it's someone's study. Maybe even the Archduke's. This could be it. Someone must have forgotten to lock it. There has to be something in there that I can use. I open the door just wide enough for me to slip through and then close it only as much as it was closed before. I want to make sure that everything looks exactly as he left it when the guard for these halls comes by again. Slipping inside, I start looking for something that might help me figure out how to escape. Blueprints of the castle or a map of the surrounding countryside. Something to give me a little guidance. I carefully look through stacks of paper on the desk. It's mostly land deals and treaty work. The Archduke has signed each one, so this must be his study. Some of the trade deals have maps, but they aren't drawn in the detail I would need. How many pheasants inhabit a particular stretch of plains isn't very relevant for forming an escape plan. When I'm done looking through a stack, I make sure that I put it back in the exact position I found it in. I don't want a single thing to be out of place when someone comes in. There are books on the shelves, but most of them appear to be history or philosophy books. Nothing useful. For a brief moment, I'm flooded with hope when I find a bookshelf full of map scrolls, but none of them appears to be relevant to the castle itself or the surrounding area. It's just more trade maps, with detailed notes on shipping routes and contract numbers. I let out a frustrated sigh. I start testing drawers to see which ones are locked and which aren't. I don't know if one of the locked drawers contains a map with a nice escape route drawn out for me, but as far as I can tell, it would just be more stuff related to courtly duties or taxes collected by the kingdom. At first, I thought it was someone's mistake that meant this room was unlocked. but even the treaties left in here don't contain anything that even a spy from another house might find useful. It's all just boring, day-to-day details. The place does appear a little dustier than the other parts of the castle. Perhaps servants know not to enter, or they're scared of the Archduke. I pull open another drawer. This one has a collection of odds and ends, most of which I can't figure out the purpose of. But it's by far the most interesting thing I've found up until now. I take my time, turning over each bauble, trying to see if it has some rune or trigger or something that would reveal its purpose. But for all I know, I might have just found the Archduke's junk drawer or a rock collection from when he was young. Then I hear heavy footfalls coming down the hallway in this direction. I put the small blue stone I just picked up back in the drawer and gently push it closed before quickly scanning the room. I duck behind the bookcase full of map scrolls and hold my breath.
Chapter 15, Karl Ishiraya. And that's the last of it, Thaglas says as he finishes signing the contract I just drew up. Yes, it is. Thank you for your continued fealty to House Ishiraya. Your people have been good to us. I see no reason to stray. The Merchant King laughs, especially now that we have a 10-year contract, and you'd have my thumbs if I do. Thaglas Gildrin dresses like a noble, but he's Kashang, the merchant caste. He just happens to practically run nearly every trade deal in this hemisphere and more than a few in the other. It's been an intense day of negotiations, shoring up some exclusive trade deals we get in exchange for protecting his caravans as they pass through some of the more inhospitable parts of our land. I've been so busy the last few days that I haven't been home. More accurately, I've made myself too busy to go home. Our contracts weren't set to run out for another year, but I needed the distraction and might as well make it a useful one. As long as I don't dwell on why too much, my mind has been much clearer. But once I start to think about it, then I start spiraling. The reasons are twofold. My brother is still waiting on an answer about a formal bonding between Tynva Zenvroth and me. I don't know what to tell him. And that's because of the root problem, the primary reason I've avoided going home. Amelie. I just want to forget these feelings and urges she stirs in me. It's too much to bear. The way she looks and smells does something to me that I still don't have a handle on. Perhaps it was foolish to dismiss my brother's suggestion of seeing a high priest or someone. Perhaps the binding on my emotions needs an adjustment. I could have said something to him, and then this would be over. But every time I've tried to give voice to this idea, something has made me stop. Without emotion, reason has been the guiding force in my life, but I can see no reason not to tell my brother what's going on, and yet I keep him ignorant of the changes happening within me. Though maybe it's for the best. It's too early to jump to conclusions. I've been avoiding Amelie since the night I made her beg for more. But I never had my own release. Perhaps that's all I need. Could the cure be the poison itself? Do I just need to ruthlessly screw this woman and get whatever it is out of my system? It could just be the novelty of her. She is new, and new is exciting, at least to other people. It was curiosity that prompted me to attempt sex with dark elves. And since then, the idea doesn't need plague my mind. I use it like medicine to ease my pain occasionally, but I no longer waste time thinking about it. Maybe once my curiosity is sated about what it's like to screw Amelie, a human, then my mind will be clearer, and I can focus on the actual work I need to be doing instead of inventing tasks to keep me away. My trip home is uneventful. When I get back, I need to make sure I properly document the terms of our agreement and send letters to the concerned parties so they don't inadvertently break the contract. It's something that doesn't need to be done right away, given it'll be a while before the new contract goes into effect. But I tell myself that it's better to do it now, rather than wait. I walk into my study and sit at my desk. Something feels off. Or more off. Everything has been thrown askew by Amelie, but that's all internal. Her physical impact on the castle has been minimal, and yet, even in this private space that so few enter, it's almost like I can feel the way her presence has shifted things. I scan the room, looking for anything out of place, but nothing appears to be out of order. I'll have to look around. But first, I'll need to file the trade map away. I reach for the hard leather cylinder in my pack when I hear a knock on the door. My jaw tightens as I walk to the door and open it. Standing there is one of the house butlers. Your Grace, I'm happy to see that you arrived home safely. Were negotiations successful? Yes, they were, but you certainly wouldn't have gone out your way just for the pleasantries, I say, trying to keep the building irritation out of my voice. What is it that requires you to interrupt me? My deepest apologies. The king wanted you to be informed of the voluminous invitations from court ladies, especially the one from Lady Zenvrath. I try to keep my voice calm, but I feel like I'm ready to explode. And perhaps it shows because the butler seems to shrink into himself as I say, "Please let my brother know I'm aware, and I will give all due consideration to whom I may or may consort with. Now kindly leave me to finish my work. It's been a long trip and I'm tired." "Certainly, Your Grace," he says before turning on his heels and making a hasty retreat down the hall. I turn back to my office, looking around again. Something is off, but I can't quite figure out what it is. Maybe I need to do a thorough search. I reach into my bag again to grab the map Thaglis, and I drew. I turn to the bookcase, but stop myself. This is ridiculous. All I'm doing is avoiding the solution that I need to even begin to focus. This Amelia situation has me twisted into anxious knots, and there's a simple enough cure. Why settle for the pale reflection of the way my mind summons up the smell of her when I could have the real thing? I toss the map case on top of my desk and leave my study. Heat rises in me from my core as I walk down the hall towards Amelia's room. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do when I get there. The thought of teasing her into a frenzy again sounds appealing, but it might just be another delay tactic. This isn't lust driving me onward, I tell myself. No. I just want to be rid of the fascination so that I can keep control of my emotions and, more importantly, my magic. I can feel it bubbling up in me. The wild, unbridled power wants to be released. But I mustn't let myself go like that. I need to get a handle on this. Too many people could get hurt. I must do whatever it takes to keep my power in check. If that means I must damn the sense out of some frail human girl, then so be it. I try to convince myself that it's a burden to do so, but I have trouble swallowing the lie. I want this. I want this more than I've ever wanted anything before in my life. As unreasonable as these feelings are, there's no need to twist myself into intellectual knots to justify them. I open the door to Amelia's room, and I creep up to the bed, deciding that it'd be best to make her beg me for a while before I ruthlessly screw her. But what I thought was her sleeping form was merely a shadow. The bed is empty. That can't be. There's nowhere else she should be. My mind races, and the arcane power I draw from the deceiver crackles across my body. She's been taken. No. The castle is too secure for someone to sneak in. But to sneak out? The realization hits, and I feel the power rise in me as my anger threatens to burn me up. "Where is she?" I roar loud enough for my voice to echo in the hallway.
Chapter 16. Amelia. The Archduke turns, and for a moment I swear he's looking right at me. I suppress the urge to scream in fright. He looks like a man ready to explode, and given the power I know he wields, that's a very real possibility. But instead of storming over, or rending me in two with his magic, he tosses a map case onto his desk, then turns and leaves. I hold my breath, trying to listen to the noises in the hall and be sure he's finally gone. When the sound of blood rushing in my ears grows too loud, I heave a sigh of relief. That was way too close. My heart pounds in my chest, and it feels like I've run for miles. After the adrenaline spike fades, a wave of exhaustion hits me, and I collapse against the wall. Just as I do, I hear a faint click as the stone under my shoulder shifts inward, and the wall gives way. I don't have time to even think about what's happening before I fall to the ground and almost start to tumble down a spiral staircase that has opened up. A secret passage. Where could it lead? This could be it. My way out. but it could just as easily lead right into the guards' barracks, and it appears very dark. I pull myself to my feet, wondering if I'll bruise from the fall. I'm a little sore, but the pain is already fading. I stare into the dark abyss. I can see the first step, but as if by some architectural trick or magic, the stairway gets so dim that while I'm sure there are steps down there, everything past the second step is shrouded in darkness, well before the curve of the wall would hide them from sight. It would be all too easy for me to lose my way in that inky blackness. Then I hear the Archduke bellow, "Where is she?" I'll have to take my chances and take the first step. As soon as my foot connects with the top stair, a brazier on the wall springs to life, filling the stairway with a soft blue light. Then the door slides shut behind me. I take the stairs 2 at a time and quickly reach the bottom. A rough-hewn tunnel stretches out before me, disappearing into the darkness. But just at the edge of the light from the final torch on the stair, I see another similar wall sconce. I take a step forward, and the tunnel lights up. I pause, orienting myself. The tunnel is straight, sloping upward at a gentle angle, but it's long enough that I can't see what lies at the end. If I head in this direction, and it keeps going, it could very well open out into the woods I saw from my window. I would like to have found something more sturdy than the gossamer scarves they have me wear before making such a trek, but there's no turning back now. I break into a gentle jog, trying to count my steps and imagine where I am or what part of the castle I'm under. By the time I near what I think should be the outer wall, I can see a moss-covered door at the end. I walk up slowly, trying to steady my breathing so I can hear if there's anyone or anything on the other side. When I'm inches from it, all I can hear is the sound of gentle water flowing. There was a small brook a stone's throw away from the castle wall. Could it be the same one? I push against the door. After a brief moment of resistance, the moss tears away, and the door swings freely open just an inch. I hold my breath and push it the rest of the way open, and I have only a second to enjoy the most beautiful sight. The outside world before my vision blurs with tears. I take a step out of the tunnel, and my bare feet touch the cool, damp leaf litter of the forest. Wiping away the tears, I take another tentative step. The forest floor is spongy and soft, unlike anything I've experienced before. Just a few feet from me, water gently flows, cutting a meandering path through the trees. Flowers bloom along its soft bank, filling the night air with their sweet aroma. It feels like I'm walking in a dream as I step closer, slowly at first, but with each step I move a little faster as I adjust to what it's like to walk on dirt. Once I feel like I can manage without slipping and falling on my face, I move faster, following the brook towards the river it branches off from. Soon I'm running, hoping over fallen logs and jutting roots. It feels natural. It feels right. I pause, gasping for breath. The air tastes better than anything I've ever been fed, even in the castle. I slowly turn around and look back. There's not a single darkened window. They must be searching the place from top to bottom for me. I can hear the shouts from inside, and then a bell I had never heard before starts ringing. That must be the alarm. I turn away and keep moving. I must put as much distance as I can between myself and that accursed place before they think to look outside the walls for me. Given the way he bellowed, I'm sure the Archduke is ready to combust. But it doesn't matter. There may have been some temporary pleasures to be had there, but he just toyed with me. Now I'm no longer the Archduke's plaything. I'm a free woman in charge of my own destiny for the first time in my life. It's a heady experience, and I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do next. I look down at my body. The moonlight is more than enough to reveal just how sheer the fabric is. The thought of being seen like this causes my stomach to drop, but also causes a not unpleasant warmth to pool between my thighs. Maybe I can find someone who can give me some proper clothes. Though that might be far too kind a thing to expect in this harsh world. If I must make a trade, I can do what I was trained for, but it would be my choice, no one else's. That alone makes all the difference for me. I spare the castle another glance before facing towards freedom. I continue to dash through the forest. The years of dance training and practice have made my muscles toned and my feet nimble. With the cloudless night and full moon, I have no need to worry about tripping. I find a pace that I think I can maintain over a distance. I feel like I could run forever and never stop, but I must temper that impulse. I can't wear myself out. I want to put as much distance between me and Castle Ishiraya before daybreak. I reach the top of a small hill and look back once more. The castle is a massive building, but its size has already diminished. I can still see the lights on in the windows, but not the individual window frames. I'm far enough away now that they're just points of illumination breaking up the dark stone structure. I can barely hear the alarm bell now. If that sound can hardly carry this far, I'm sure I'm safe enough to allow myself a small indulgence. I'm free! I scream into the night air. The rush is exhilarating. I'm free! I shout one more time before turning my back to Castle Ishiraya and breaking into a run. I repeat the words over and over again in my head. I'm free, I'm free, I'm free. Nothing in life has ever felt this good.
Chapter 17. Karl Ishiraya. The entire castle is raised in alarm, and the search for my missing Amelia means leaving no stone unturned. We've completed our search of the East Wing, and she's nowhere to be found, reports Invan Andres, captain of the guards. I feel my anger flare, and Invan makes a strangled sound in his throat. I can't tell if it's just a fearful noise he makes at seeing the look in my eyes, or if the spark of power I felt as my magic attempts to choke the life out of this man for his failure to find Amelia. Either way, Invan clears his throat and says, I've gotten similar reports from the other parts of the castle. Servants' quarters, the barracks, the stables have been thoroughly searched. No horses have gone missing, so she can't have gone far. Is that supposed to make it better? I snap. Your Grace, I just believe that we've searched everywhere we could within the castle walls. Well, search again, I say through gritted teeth. She can't have just disappeared. Find her, or your suffering will become the stuff of legends. I have no idea where this is coming from. I can almost imagine the clear-headed version of myself understanding that Invan is doing the best he can. He served as captain of the guard for decades, and done so with distinction and honor. There's no reason for me to be angry at him, but my anger has tipped me past the point of reason. That level of clarity is impossible as I feel everything all at once. The last bindings on my emotions are crumbling. That I know. After years of feeling nothing, everything is flooding back in a tidal wave, with anger cresting over the top. The air around me hums with my rage, but through the fog I finally grasp at the words, within the castle walls. Could she have walked out one of the castle gates? No, he answers quickly. I spoke to each of the gate guards personally. She's short enough to get noticed. Only dark elves and a few male slaves have left today. If not through the gates, how could she have left the castle grounds? Then something floats to the forefront of my thoughts. My study. On a gut, instinctual level, I'd felt her presence there. I thought it was a longing, but perhaps it was more concrete than that. Could she have been there? I storm through the halls, feeling my power growing along with my anger. I burst into my study, and several fearful-looking servants are there on their hands and knees, looking for some clue as to where I can't think clearly enough to name what it is Amelia is to me. But she is mine, and they have no idea where she's gone. But I might have a clue. I'm unsure if I want to be right or not. Knowing where Amelia is better than not. But if she was there and I walked right past her, my anger is making it hard to decide who would need to be punished for it, she or I. I walk up to the wall behind the bookshelf full of map scrolls, and I touch a hidden stone switch. But instead of the soft click, the wall just moves. The door never fully closed. She hadn't pulled it shut behind her. My breath is heavy as I take a step forward. A few servants have gathered behind me, surprised that there's a door they knew nothing about. The torchlights in the spiraling staircase come to life, and there, in the dust that has settled in the years since this tunnel saw use, are small footprints, perfect impressions of Amelia's delicate feet. I slam my fist into the stone column at the center of the staircase, and crackling energy shoots down the length of my arm, pulverizing the stone and causing the stairs to crumble. I'd have fallen with it into the tunnel below if not for the arcane forces swirling around me. The servants in the office cower behind me in awestruck terror. They're all relatively new, people who were conscripted or born after the last time this happened. It's the first time they've seen my anger and the power that comes with it. But this isn't new to me. It's sickeningly familiar, like a long-lost friend. Blind rage leads to explosively overwhelming power. Had one of them been standing close, the energy could have easily killed them, and it'd take a miracle for them to walk away unscathed. And they know it. Each of them backs away from me slowly, not wanting to attract my attention, but not wanting to remain any closer to me than they need to. But it doesn't matter. Their fear means nothing. I leave them behind as I float to the cold stone floor below. The tunnel floor stretches out before me, the rocks spider-webbed with cracks for several yards. I tear through the tunnel. Magic suffuses my limbs, and I move faster and faster. Soon I'm almost sailing through the air. I don't even stop at the door, blasting through it, emerging from the upturned tunnel like a cannonball of nearly pure arcane force. I can hear the tunnel collapsing behind me as my magic takes its revenge on the path of Amelia's escape. I crash through several trees, and the ground craters under me when I land, sending dirt flying in all directions. I can taste the magic in the air around me. It flows from me, eager for me to shape it, and hungry for purpose. This is the problem with rage-fueled magic. It wants to be used and seeks to do the caster's will, so any thought becomes a direction. But there's only one thought in my mind. Find Amelia. My magic spreads out around me, seeping into the soil and illuminating the path before me. Amelia's path. Each of her footfalls glow, beckoning me forward. And I run, moving like the wind. The ground beneath my feet trembles, and I am all but consumed in my focus. I will have her. That is inevitable. She is mine. My magic moves ahead of me, finding the path to my possession. Yes, she is my possession to do with as I see fit, but she is more than that. I don't know what yet, but the way she has broken me open like this is only a testament to what this woman means to me. She may be mine on paper, but she has ripped my soul away as her own, and I can't let her leave me shattered like this. She can't run from me. The few minutes of panic was enough to unleash my wrath, and there is no way I can stomach being without her even if I tried. Not that I am. With power like mine, I'm unstoppable. She's my prey, and I'm the ultimate predator, my senses heightened to a point few in the history of my people could understand. My magic spreads around me further. I'm aware of every blade of grass. I can hear the faintest sounds, even over the din I create, by crashing through the forest faster than any other elf could. With a snap of my fingers, I could light this whole forest ablaze, turning it to ash. I'd never hurt her like that, though I know I could. For once, my anger, as destructive as it is, seems to have someone who is immune to it. My magic recoils at the thought of harming her, and that only strengthens when I find her. I can feel her. My magic has spread miles, and I am intensely aware of her. Every inch of flawless skin shines in the pale light of a new dawn. She may as well be wearing nothing at all with what little cover the clothes give her. Anyone who would happen upon her would see her nakedness, and that thought threatens to infuriate me further. She's mine, and mine alone. My desire is all-encompassing, and none shall encroach upon her. I will be with her. Got you, I say through a tight jaw and clenched teeth. And I'm no longer bound by the need to walk the earth. I'm the avatar of the deceiver's power. Why walk when you can fly? And why fly when you can simply be where you want? Yes, the power is there. All I need to do is have sufficient will to shape it. My desire for Amelia is more than enough, and I disappear into the magic.
Chapter 18. Amelie, I just keep running. I don't know where I'm going except that I'm following the river because someone has to have built a town near a river, right? It's the best plan I have. For all the time I spent planning escapes, I feel silly for never considering where I would escape to. It was the escape from half of the equation that I was obsessed with. Maybe I just couldn't imagine what a life of freedom would feel like. As for now, it feels extremely exhilarating and mildly uncomfortable. My lungs burn, my legs are sore, and my feet ache. There's a pinching pain along my side, but it doesn't matter. I'm free, and just that thought is enough to sustain me past any possible pain pushing my body further could ever bring. I'll take the blisters and fatigue if that means being free. I don't know how long I've been running or how many miles I've covered, but when I look back, the castle has become small enough I can hide the whole city around it with just my outstretched thumb. I've covered a lot of ground since emerging from the tunnel. That feels simultaneously like a lifetime and only a few seconds ago. But it's probably been at least a few hours. Maybe. I have no way to tell, but I'm pretty sure that it will dawn soon. Maybe then I'll rest. It might just be safer to do so during the day. I haven't forgotten the stories the servants told of sons and daughters, mothers and fathers who went into the forest to work the land or gather resources and then never returned. I have no weapons, and the increasingly muddied garments I have don't even cover most of me, let alone protect me. But I don't care about what dangers might lay ahead. Freedom is worth the cost, and I'd rather be eaten by a mindless beast than the slave to an intelligent one. And so, I just keep running, keep moving. I'll follow the river all the way to the source if I have to. If I don't find anyone by then, I'll just come up with a new plan. But I'll be the one deciding what to do, and that's the most important thing. As the horizon starts to lighten and the first fingers of dawn crawl their way up the sky, I finally allow myself the luxury of slowing down. I pick my way through the forest, searching for something that looks protected from sight but unoccupied. I don't want to try and sleep in a cave. Not out of a sense of propriety but safety. While I may have grown up in the city, I'm not dumb enough to think that I'd be the first creature to take up residence in a cave. Perhaps I'll try to climb a tree and sleep up in the branches. I never had the chance to try to climb trees growing up. Such things wouldn't be considered very ladylike. While my value to them lay primarily in my virginity, there was still something to be said for refinement. But I'd gotten this far, and how hard could it be to climb a tree? I just had to tempt fate with the thought, because it turns out that it's very difficult when wearing a bunch of sheer fabric masquerading as clothing. The billowing parts of the scarves keep catching on twigs and branches, pulling me off balance. After a few attempts, I lean against a tall tree, trying to catch my breath. Would it just be easier to climb the tree naked? I begin to wonder why I even bothered with these clothes. Anyone could see everything anyway. And yet there's something in me that clings to the idea that if I find someone, I'd be treated better wearing barely their wisps of silk than I would if they stumbled upon me skyclad. Though the thought of being found in such a state makes my skin tingle. What has the Archduke done to me? But as the feeling intensifies, and all the hair on my body starts to stand on end, I realise I'm not a sexual deviant, but something in the air is making me feel this way. Then there's a whooshing behind me. I turn just in time to see an explosion of brilliant green light that nearly blinds me before its force throws me to the ground. I know I'm lucky to have landed on soft soil rather than being thrown into one of the trees or landing on jagged stones. But I still land hard enough to knock the wind out of me. Everything hurts, and my ears are ringing. I try to blink away the after image from the explosion. The violet-coloured blob with dark vertical lines where trees had been starts to fade, but my vision isn't any clearer. The blast kicked up a massive cloud of dust, and everything more than a foot in front of me is just vague shadows. I cough, still trying to recover my breath when I see, something moving in the dust cloud. A hulking figure lumbers towards me, the air around it sparking. Could this be some monster that has come to devour me? At least I'll die free. I reach down and grab a branch from the ground. I might get eaten, but I won't go down easy. As the dust settles, the form moving towards me becomes clearer. Long, flowing platinum hair and pitch-dark skin. Tall, broad, powerful. The Archduke's face emerges from the haze. It doesn't matter. I raise the stick, ready to strike, but he snaps his fingers, and it dissolves into mist only to reform as a shining rope that binds my wrists. I try to turn and run, but my feet leave the ground as some unseen force pulls toward him. The power I felt before his explosive arrival is nothing compared to being encircled by his magic. It dances like lightning across my skin, straddling a line between searing pain and a delightful tingle, especially when it arcs across the most sensitive parts of me. We'd all heard tales of how powerful the Archduke was, but it's one thing to be told someone has potent magic, and another thing to experience it. I can see my doom in his eyes. They burn with power and fury and fatal intent. You aren't allowed to run away. His tone is furious, and I fear what he is going to do to me. But I don't care as long as it's the end. I tasted freedom. My heart's greatest wish was fulfilled, and not many people get to say that about their lives. Hovering in the air before him, I feel the sudden weight of gravity reassert itself, but I don't fall to the ground. Instead, his hands clamp around my body, supporting my weight with ease. I don't fear you. I spit the words out, choking as his magic flares. It's a lie. I'm terrified, but I won't give him the satisfaction of hearing me scream even as he kills me. Or so I tell myself until he draws me closer. I slam my eyes shut and brace for the end. But as I open my mouth to cry out, he silences me with his own. It's a ferocious kiss, more intense than any I've had before, and my terror melts away instantly as I dive into him, only wanting more. The world seems to fade, and it feels like I'm falling into a void where the only things that exist in the whole universe are him and me. My head spins, and as the sound of my pulse pounds in my ears, I feel once again completely weightless. He releases my mouth, and we're both left gasping for breath. I open my eyes, and it's only then that I realise we are no longer in the forest, but back in his room.
Chapter 19, Karl Ishiraya. As much as Samara and I want to finish what these two characters have started, it looks like this chapter is about to get too hot for YouTube to handle.
Unfortunately, we have to pause here because their guidelines won't allow us to reveal the spiciest details.
To keep bringing you these free audiobooks, we have to follow their rules.
But don't worry. You can experience the full, unabridged version over at worldsofprotheka.com, where the boundaries of passion and fantasy collide.
Use code YouTube30 for 30% off any of our unabridged audiobooks set in the rich and immersive worlds of Protheka.
Protheka's magic is eternal.
With these scenes, it will be unforgettable.
Chapter 20. Amelia. I've gone mad. It's the only explanation. After he claimed me on his bed, he dragged me to the balcony and took me under the stars. I am only lucky that his servants have been warded off from this corner of the castle, or he might have screwed me in front of them. His scent lingers with mine, so that I can't tell the difference. Under the hot water, he takes me again, his gorgeous eyes darkened with desire. I don't understand how it can be so terribly good. I thought it would hurt, but his very essence soothes my ragged nerves and makes me beg when I should be objecting to the treatment. Is he intent on breaking me completely? I can't say I would mind. My head lolls dangerously, and I am filled with his seed that he seems incapable of running out of. The water dies, but he's not finished, carrying me to the counter where he curls over me, his lean figure poised to come again. I grab fistfuls of his platinum hair as he captures my mouth, my body sore even in the throes of pleasure. He grimaces as he comes for the umpteenth time, and my tired insides shudder. His kisses become sweet, scouring my face and neck as I slump against the mirror. His voice is a deep rumble in his chest. "You're tired." A wistful laugh escapes me. I don't have the energy for anything else. His powerful arms link around me and hoist me up. I think he means to screw me again, but when I fall into the deep mattress of his bed, sleep threatens to overtake me. He kisses my crown as we curl up together. Sleep, precious. That is an order I have no trouble obeying. Star. When I wake, I expect the comforting pressure of him around me. But it's gone, only the warm scent of him remaining on my skin as daylight trickles through the heavy curtains. I roll over, trying to find him, finally realizing just how sore he's made me. I already miss his crazed affections. I reach for my sore floozy when something stops me with a heavy jingle. My heart drops. Chains are binding my wrists and ankles, keeping me from slipping away again. Tears blur my vision instantly, and betrayal pierces my heart. These do not shock me when I tug, but they are held fast by his magic. I throw my gaze up to the ceiling and let the tears fall. If I had known what he wanted from me, I never would have run away in the first place. Still, the weight of his distrust stings me deeper than the bruises littering my body. If I hadn't run away, maybe he would have left me some agency of my own. I can't even look out the window from here. A quiet sob escapes me. After last night, I've forgotten that I'm just a toy to him, a plaything until he gets bored of me and finds another slave. Maybe he'll run back to my master and outbid the Baron for another fresh prize again. But I didn't get that feeling from the way he held me long and hard, well after he'd found his satisfaction. Like he needed me. I must be fooling myself, I think. He's the Archduke for damn sake. Why would he bind himself to a slave when he could have any elf or human in the kingdom? I'm simmering in these thoughts when the door swings open. At first I expect he's mad at me, with the way the door slams against the wainscoting, but when a host of elvish Zagfer enter, I realise they are only here to see to my needs. Despite my miserable state, relief finds me. I have to pee. Modesty catches up with me, but I can hardly move to rectify it. They seem to ignore my pathetic tugging and wheel in a cart with a single covered tray on it. The elven women won't meet my eye, grimacing when they look upon the damage he wrought all over my body. One of them hesitates before shutting the door securely. Are we sure about this? It is not our place to question his orders. The lid is taken off the food, which I don't recognise. It's simple and plain, without much of a smell to it. The one in charge grabs a utensil and cuts a section of the stuff, bringing it to my mouth. I purse my lips, making her scowl. Eat, stupid human, by order of the Archduke. I shake my head. Another servant comes around the other side of the bed and pries my jaw open, forcing me to take in the strange food. I try to reject it, but she clamps my mouth shut until I swallow it down. They force another one on me and another until the plate is empty. When I'm released, I gag on the stuff. "Don't you dare throw it up," one says. "You ungrateful little human." It goes down hard, but I manage to master myself. "I'm not hungry." She's got a mouth on her too. They seem to be packing up to leave when I stop them. "Wait, please. I need to go to the bathroom. Don't leave me like this." The one in charge remains as the others depart with the cart in tow. "You don't need to go to the bathroom any longer." "How can you say that?" I protest, staring at her hard. "I haven't been able to move for hours, and you're going to leave me to soil his bed." "You misunderstand," she says calmly, though I can feel her impatience just under the surface. She doesn't like having to explain herself to a slave, a human slave no less. "What you just ate will change you. You won't need to eliminate. You will no longer sweat or get ill. You will be healthier and cleaner than you have ever been before. Be grateful to your new master that he insisted you receive such treatment." My thoughts grind to a halt. Wait. I have my duties to attend to, human. You will wait for the Archduke's return. Maybe it will give you time to learn some decorum. She leaves even as I'm shouting for her. When the door shuts, I go slack against the mattress again. I don't feel any different, except the weight in my gut. The food feels dense, but it's what it can do that brings me a heightened focus. How is it even possible? Even in the club, I'd never heard of such a thing. The humans were, well, human, who had to clean their own toilets at the day's end. Wouldn't they have utilised such a thing for their slaves? It would follow that a slave who didn't need such maintenance would be more coveted than the next. Or maybe Rakis was as cheap as they claimed and refused to use such a treatment on us. But I also recall the looks on the maids' faces just now. They were repulsed at the notion of giving such a thing to a lowly slave. Before, they'd merely treated me like a nuisance. Now they are jealous of me, even as I'm shackled to the Archduke's bed. What could possibly have changed?
Chapter 21. Karl Ishiraya. I stand in the antechamber as a human servant stands in nervous attendance. "May I get you some wine?" she asks, her eyes downcast. She looks nothing like Amelia, and yet she reminds me of her, though everything reminds me of Amelia now. "No, just bring me to Karisu," I say. Your Grace, the girl babbles. While it irritates me greatly, an emotion I'm still wrestling to control, I manage to only be slightly terse when I say, "Out with it, girl." Master Karisu is currently, entertaining guests, noble guests. "Then let him know I'm here and wish to speak with him," I say. The girl turns and flees down the hall. When the door opens, I can hear the sounds of laughter, some moaning, and a string of curses to the 13. Ah, that kind of entertaining. A few moments later, a different young human woman emerges, her dress somewhat askew and bite marks coloring her neck. She's already on her knees, reaching for my belt before I can blink. I step back. "No, I have no need for your services." A look of trepidation crosses her face. "If I displeased you, my lord, please allow me to make it up to you. You truly can use me in any way that you wish." "I do not wish to use you at all." I fail to keep the anger out of my voice, and she starts to cower. "There is no need to fear. Just bring me to your master." "Yes, your grace," she says, turning around, presenting me with the back of her dress completely covered in still wet cum. We pass through the doors into a large hall where beds, couches, and large pillows have been strewn about. She leads me through a maze of debauchery, writhing bodies everywhere, and in the center of it, Karisu. "Karisu, I was hoping to speak to you in confidence." Irritation starts creeping back into my voice, but I manage to rein it in before he can notice. She lies there unmoving and soundless, her eyes vacant as she's obviously somewhere else. When I look up, I see that it's Baron Cleopold buggering the sanity out of the servant. My stomach turns as I think how he may have used Amelie as carelessly and callously if I hadn't intervened. I regret coming here. I should have waited. Looking around the room, I even see Lady Tynva Zenvrath sitting on the face of some poor servant girl. I recognize so many of the dark elves here. I know these people and have broken bread and brokered deals with most. And while hedonism and lechery seemed tiresome before, now it's revolting to me. I can feel the air around me start to hum with power. I should go, but I came here for a reason. I have that human girl. She recently tried to escape. I brought her back, but I'm unsure how to make it so she won't keep trying to run away. In truth, my concern has grown into something more. But I don't know if Karisu needs to hear how I worry for her safety. She needed a healer after she passed out. There were blisters on her feet from running. And it pains me to admit it, even to myself, but I may have been too rough with her at times. "Oh, you should speak to Rakis at Lamware, or I can do that for you if you wish. They have this stuff called heat. It turns any woman into a very compliant little brat. Just be sure you keep her away from any male servants who may be tempted to use her. The more he talks, the more my ire rises. I can see the mistake I've made coming here. The compliance I seek is not the kind that allows Karasu to pass his sloppy seconds on to Baron Cleopold. These servants are broken, defeated. That's not what I want for Amelie. There has to be a better way to keep her with me than chaining her, drugging her, or simply crushing her soul until she's a lifeless doll. I'll look into it, I say. Thank you, cousin. I stand to leave, and he says, "Going so soon. I'm sure we can find someone for you to try to have fun with. I'll even get someone special, fresh, unused." He rises from his seat, and I hold up my hand to stop him. A tiny mote of my magic rips free of me, and he's forced back to sitting before I can rein it in. His eyes go wide in shock. No need. I'm not in the mood today. I turn and walk away. I'm halfway to the door when I hear, "Archduke, your grace." The voice of Baron Cleopold sets my teeth on edge. I'm ready to pretend I didn't hear him when his hand claps around my shoulder. "What is it?" I ask, and his hand jerks back, shocked by a minor spark of my power. It was probably small enough for him to confuse it with static because he just smiles and says, "I just wanted to ask if the girl Amelie was worth the mine. I'd heard all the time and energy they'd invested in her, which was why I was so interested. Have you tasted her yet? Is she any good? Perhaps to show there are no ill feelings between friends after you bought her out from under me, when you tire of her, if there's anything left, I can buy her off you. Though I'm sure she won't be worth a whole Neptherium mine when you're done with her. Perhaps a few shipments worth if you haven't completely ruined. Mah." The Baron's words are cut short as his body floats above the ground. My magic takes him by the throat and lifts him into the air. His eyes bulge as his hands claw impotently at his throat. "Help me!" The Baron manages to squeal before the words are no longer possible for him. The room that had been full of the sounds of moans, wails, and sadistic laughter falls silent before it tips into screams as people scramble away from the Baron's floating body. His feet kick at the air wildly. There's a voice that almost cuts through the chaos. But it seems distant and inconsequential as my magic carries out my desire to see this man suffer for even thinking he's worthy to touch Amelie. Men like him shouldn't even be allowed to breathe the same air as her. And those who would presume such closeness between us to ask to purchase her second-hand from me don't deserve to breathe air at all. The voice, that distant voice, screams, "Guards! Guards! We're under attack! To me!" And it's only after Karasu pushes through the fleeing guests and servants that I realize it is his voice. Our eyes meet, and his brow furrows as he says, "Cousin? What's happening?"
If someone had told me a month ago that I would be running for my life instead of sitting in the stuffy classroom of the bordello, preparing to be sold off to indoor, I would have laughed.
The forest is not your safe space, little one.
But there's no avoiding my fate.
It's you. You're the one.
I've spent my entire life training to be the perfect bride for the top-bidding Dark Elf. So much can change in so little time.
You understand why you're being punished, right, child?
Your blood. It sings to me.
Please, let me out of here.
You need to learn your place.
But what are you? Where are you taking me?
Run!
I'm a bringer of death.
No, you're not dying. I won't let you.
You won't be able to get out.
Let me go, please.
Sadie, I will make you mine. Chapter 22. Karl Ishiraya. I watch as recognition dawns on Karasu's face. Shock and horror soon etch their own lines on his expression. He opens his mouth to speak, but it's only a few babbling noises as he struggles to find his words. Before he can figure it out, a door to the left of the room bursts open. The house guards, with gleaming armor, proudly displaying the family crest, pour into the room, swords drawn. No, wait! Karisu yells, finally regaining his ability to speak. But it's too late. My power explodes forth in a wave. They all collapse to the ground, cracking the stone floor as my magic makes their armor and weapons 100 times heavier. Some of them land awkwardly, and I hear the snapping of bones and cries of pain. The rest of the guests turn to flee out the nearest exit they can get to. But the doors, now barred by my magic, won't open. One dark elf tries to shoulder a door open, and then falls to the ground in agony as the shimmering energy around the door turns red hot. I need them to witness this. As long as they comply, they'll live to see another day. Almost as one, the guests turn to the center of the room where the Baron hangs by his neck, suspended by bands of invisible energy. Cousin, please, Karisu begs. What's the meaning of this? You have to stop. Please put the Baron down. You're killing him. Magic hums around me, and I can feel the revelation sweep the room as each person starts to understand there isn't some unseen attacker or enemy from without the walls, but me and my power hefting the Baron toward the high ceiling. All he can do is make strangled cries as my magic carries him higher and tightens its grip around his throat. And then I rise into the air as well, buoyed by my power, until we are eye level. I want to make sure that everyone can see me. They need to know what the consequences are for daring to insult my Amelia. You're going to lose consciousness soon if I keep this up, so I will be brief, I say, my voice crackling with arcane energy bubbling up inside me, amplifying the sounds. If I ever hear Amelia's name pass your lips again, or find out that you have even referred to her at all, even by inference, it will be your life next time. Even as he struggles to breathe, I can see what looks like relief on his face, but it's a short-lived expression. My magic releases its grip on his throat, and he starts to fall, making a most undignified screech. But before he reaches the floor, it seizes him by the arm. The pull of the earth under him intensifies, and my magic wrenches his arm upward. The combined force of his sudden drop and the pull of my power tears his arm off his body, blood splashing to the floor with him. When he hits the ground, I can hear the bones snap as his right leg breaks. He howls in pain as his lifeless arm drops to the bloodied floor beside him. My voice resonates through the room even louder now so that everyone can hear me over the Baron's agonized screams. As for the rest of you degenerates, if I see you so much as look at Amelia with the barest hint of lustful intentions, your name will become legendary for the pain you endured before your untimely demise. Speak ill of her and you may live, but your mutilated bodies will give your children nightmares, and you will wish I had let you die. I glare down at my frightened onlookers and see the dark elves just as terrified, if not more so, than their human slaves. I'm Archbishop Karl Ishiraya, the most powerful sorcerer to ever live. This is but a fraction of my true power. I'm not to be trifled with. Don't think of testing me. Make it known to your kin and associates that Amelia is mine, and a slight against he, and any harm that might befall her will be met swiftly with pains unimaginable. The room was silent except for the Baron's wailing. Do you understand? I ask, my words reverberating through the room. There are scattered meek yeses and some stunned head nodding. I didn't hear you. Do you understand? Or do I need to make further demonstrations of my power? The fireplaces blaze to new life, spewing forth blue, arcane flames, and the sex-stained furniture starts to hover in the air. The room burst into sound as people vigorously agreed to the rules I laid out. All except one. Cousin, you can't be serious. She's just some whore. Karisu words are cut off as my magic squeezes the air from his lungs. Do not think that mere blood kinship exempts you from this decree. Don't presume that you will get any leeway. Break these rules and you are just as damned as the rest of them. Do you understand? He gasps in a breath after my power lessens the crushing weight on his chest. Yes, Your Grace. Perfectly clear. The room falls silent. Even the Baron has ceased wailing. Then it seems he's found his breath and his voice. He looks up at me, all anger and fury. How dare you! He screams as he clutches the spot where his arm used to be, blood still seeping from between his fingers. You haven't got the right. I have the power. Therefore, I have the right. Do you understand? And before you answer, I want you to know you should consider yourself lucky I didn't choose to unman you. Slowly. It takes a lot to make a dark elf's skin pale, but those words are enough to make the Baron go ashen, even as his eyes burn with hatred. Yes, your grace, Baron Cleopold says in a voice quaking with fear. And now the room reeks of it. My magic makes the taste of their fear obvious to me. Not one of them should harbor any doubts that I meant exactly as I said. The furniture crashes to the ground, and the magic bleeds out of the guard's armor, those that can begin to pick themselves up off the floor and carefully rise. One of them stops while he still rests on one knee. He eyes me, and I see his hand creep ever so slowly to the hilt of his sword. The air around me sings, my magic eager to exact swift vengeance for even the thought of opposing me when Karisu cries out, "No, don't. Don't even think about it." The guard's hand snaps away from his blade, and I let my magic relax, but I don't drop my guard. He's lucky Karisu was quick, and he's obedient. I pull back the energy around the sword's hilt that would have drained him of all life. His voice shaking, Karisu says, "I believe the party is now over. Thank you for coming, cousin." "A pleasure as always. I'll see myself out," I say before I land back on the ground. Feet firmly on the floor again, I turn and walk to the door in a room so silent, my footfalls sound thunderous. The doors to the antechamber fly open, tearing clean off their hinges and shattering on the floor. My butler waits patiently by the carriage. "Where to now, your grace?" he asks, eyes downcast. "To the castle," I order as I step inside. I'm not sure what the consequences may be from this, but I don't care. They all now understand that Amelia is mine, and that only a fool would dare to oppose me.
Chapter 23. Amelia. I stare at the delicate-looking chains on my shackles and idly wonder what process was used to make them. I need something to occupy my mind with. While they're light and don't weigh me down physically, they are surprisingly strong. It's probably magic, but I wonder if there's any magic to lift their emotional weight off of me. Chained to this bed, stuck in this room, I try to see the point in continuing on. It hasn't been more than a few days since my escape, but it and the elation of freedom already feel like some distant memory or fever dream. And then what happened after? I want my freedom, but there's an ever-increasing need for the things the Archduke can do to my body. Can I have both? That seems like it'd be impossible, and at the moment I have neither. All I can do is move around on the bed a little. I can sit up enough to feed myself, but not much else. Well, except for the occasional attempts to approach anything like how the Archduke makes me feel. I don't know if he's just talented or if he uses his magic, but I can't seem to make it feel half as good as he does. That doesn't mean I don't try. I have to do something to occupy myself. That used to be contemplating escape, but my attempt ended in disaster, and even the fleeting fantasy of it just stirs up pained regret. So instead, I try to dull the ache and weariness with sexual release, though the weight on my heart makes that difficult, more so when I'm interrupted. I jerk my hand out from under the short skirt I've been given when my door opens. Inerna steps through the doorway carrying a tray of food. I only know her name because I overheard one of the other servants call her that. She scowls at me as if she knows what I'd been doing before she barged in and doesn't approve. "I'd like to see the Archduke," I say as she turns to leave. She smiles at me, but it doesn't reach her eyes, which can still manage to carry a death glare despite the upturned lips. With her bright, clear voice, she sounds almost cheerful, even encouraging. But her words do not match her tone. "You should learn your place, human. The Archduke doesn't have time to be at your beck and call. When he has need of you, he will come." When the door opens again, this time, he walks in. I keep my eyes downcast, fearing what he might do to punish me for my defiance, but also hoping for more of his touch. He's never truly hurt me, beyond the impact after his explosive arrival in the forest, or at least not in any way that didn't mix the pain with equal parts pleasure. He clothed me, even if it is only the kind one would dress a bed wench in. I'm fed and cared for by his household. I know that I'm treated better than almost any other human in my position, so why do I still yearn for more, and why do I still fear him if I've done nothing to anger him since my escape? I've been compliant, even willing, but I can't quite shake the fear of him, and I cower as he draws near. He sighs, and I look up into his face. While his expression is blank, his eyes carry all the kindness I could ever want, and yet I hesitate still. When he sits at the end of the bed, and his hands brush my feet, I can't help but jerk back a little. He makes no more sudden movements, and I intentionally put my foot back where it was, just under his palm. His fingertips trace up the delicate bones in my feet, up to my ankle where the chain connects to the shackle. He whispers a word, and it pops open. I remain statue still as he repeats the process on my other foot. "Give me your hands," he says in a gentle voice. Soon the bindings on my wrists fall away, but he's still holding my hands in his. "I don't like chaining you up, but I must do it for your safety. Your escape put you in danger, and I can't have that. You're lucky I was the first person to find you, and that the beasts had yet to come down out of the mountains." My head spins slightly from the skin-to-skin contact as he rubs my wrist where I was bound. It's not as though the shackles hurt, but it still feels nice. He brushes one spot, just on the inside of my wrist, and it causes my body to shiver. Then his hands move back to my feet, and he gently massages them, drawing a soft moan from my lips. "I don't want you to be trapped here, but I don't know if I can trust you with any leeway. We can go for walks in the castle whenever you want." I'm shocked at his words. He cares about my safety. What kind of dark elf would say that to a human? I can hardly believe it if it weren't for the tenderness in his eyes. Then there's the matter of his deal. He wants to accompany me and let me walk around. He doesn't want to keep me chained up unless he has use for me or to punish me for misbehaving. He wants to give me what I've made so obvious I desire. I have a small smile at the thought of telling Inerna to go fetch the Archduke for me, but then I feel my throat start to tighten and feel like I'm about to cry at the thought of being able to leave this room again. I hold back my tears, trying to figure out how he can affect me so. I could tell him that I won't run away again, that all he needs to do to make me stay is touch me the way he does. That makes my body sing, but I hold my tongue. I can't give him that power, can I? This could all be some mind game he's playing with me. He must see the hesitation on my face because he draws closer, caresses my cheek, and says, "I can understand if you don't trust me. It's something we both need to work on, but I hope that you can come to realise I really have your best interests at heart. It's my job to keep you safe." He drops his hand from my cheek and lets out a sigh. I suppose it doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? I wish I could find the words to explain it to you, but I don't understand why I react to you the way I do. But from now on, I will treat you gently and never hurt you. And I'll work every day to prove it to you. He stands up and holds out his hand to me. Perhaps in time, you'll trust me enough not to harm you that I can trust you enough to leave you unchained. But for now, let's go for a walk. The weather is perfect. The sun is out, and with a cool, fresh breeze blowing in from the north, it's quite pleasant. He looks down at me, his hand still outstretched. This seems too good to be true. I saw the fury in his eyes after he caught me, but perhaps that was fear. I don't know. I can't trust him too quickly, can I? Maybe it's myself I can't trust. With the effect he has on me, it's hard to judge my own reactions. My thoughts and feelings are a conflicting mess of fear, desire, sadness, and longing. I want the freedom to choose, but it wrestles with the desire to be chosen. His interest in me seems genuine, but I can't let my guard down around him. Not yet. But I can at least go for a walk. I I hum my approval as I take his hand and he draws me to my feet. I want it all to be true, but perhaps that clouds my judgment when it comes to him. Should I just believe him and trust him enough to see how this goes? His hand gently squeezes mine as we head toward the door. Chapter 24. Amelia. Taking that walk with the Archduke set off changes in the way he and I interact. True to his word, I was able to ask for him when I started to go stir-crazy just sitting in my room. When he doesn't appear immediately, for whatever reason, he sends a servant back to tell me. But we walk at least once a day together, and we talk. Well, mostly, he talks. I listen and make encouraging sounds. I've always loved this garden, he says, looking over the well-tended greenery that surrounds an immaculately gleaming white marble fountain. I just nod. But I do see why he would love it so. The flowers seem to be in perpetual bloom as far as I can tell. I don't know if the plants here did that naturally, or if it was more magic. It has always been hard to tell with the dark elves as they've incorporated magic into every aspect of their lives. I could ask him, but I'm still not sure enough of my own voice, or even just myself to do so. There remains too much uncertainty about him. He seems like he cares for me in some way, but what is that to a dark elf? While I'm glad not to see him furious with me, I also haven't seen that same way he wanted me, or at least he's yet to show that side again. Maybe it's part of his promise to be gentle, but I'm slowly coming to terms with how much I want him to ravage me. Nothing in my life, shy of those first steps into the forest, has ever felt so blissful as when he took me as his. But the passionate and intense sex has given way to him sleeping next to me. It's strange, but not unpleasant. When he pulls me close, if I imagine a slightly different world, I can almost feel safe in his arms. And I prefer the nights when he does. Not just because of that, but those are the nights when I'm not chained in my sleep. He still bars the door with his magic, but I don't know if he would still do so if he understood how much I revel in the feeling of him against me. The only disadvantage being on those nights, I can't let my hands roam over my body and pretend they are his. Usually, before he sleeps in my bed, we eat dinner together. He always has the cooks prepare a sumptuous meal, and while it's lovely, I'm still too nervous to eat much. I can tell it doesn't make him happy that I only pick at the food I'm given. Tonight, it's much the same as it's been for the last 2 weeks. He arranges his schedule so that he's there in plenty of time to release me from my chains and let me get dressed. Afterwards, he walks with me to one of the castle's small dining halls. I'm not sure if it was used by the servants. It certainly isn't opulent enough to entertain guests in. But it's private, just the two of us, and that's really what I want. The pheasant is delicious, but I only manage a few bites before my nerves get to be too much. The concoction they gave me means no ill effects from a nervous stomach, but that doesn't mean my body isn't remembering 20 years' worth of life when things would have ended differently, and it kills my appetite. "Is there something wrong with your dinner?" he asks. I shake my head no. "So you're just not hungry?" It would take far too many words to explain the way that each time I start to relax and maybe actually enjoy my time with him, the fear the rug is about to be pulled out from under me twists my stomach into knots. So, I nod, yes. "I do wish you would eat more. I think it'd help you feel better. Here, try this," he says, as he reaches over and then pulls me into his lap. He uncovers a small dish with some kind of chilled fruit that is much too exotic for me to know the name of. He spears some with his fork and holds it out to me. I take a bite. It's cool and sweet, but slightly tart, and the combination causes me to shiver. "Do you like it?" he asks. "Yes, very much, Your Grace." It's the most words I've spoken to him strung together, besides my mindless cries that one blissful night, and the pleased expression on his face causes my already crumbling doubts to falter. "It's very good. Though it does make me cold," I say, looking down at the goosebumps along my arm. "Ni sin is best cold. It gets very bitter when it warms, It's packed in ice and shipped from the north. You can have as much as you like, or we could try something else, he offers. I do enjoy it, but could I hesitate, not sure if I want to take these vulnerable steps with him. Could I stay with you? You're very warm. Had I known this is what it would take, I'd have had you try it sooner, he says with a grin. And for a brief second, I see a hint of something like the desire he showed for me before. I take another bite and press myself against him. Yes, he is very warm. Later, we lay in the dark, his arm wrapped around me, when I say, I'm sorry I ran away. He sighs and says, Does that mean you don't plan on trying again? I like it here, with you. It's just that before, I was scared, and I've always yearned for freedom. Growing up at Lamué, knowing the purpose they had planned for me, I'd always expected my life to end in tragedy. There are things I saw there. Then it all starts to spill out of me. Everything. Every fear and worry I had growing up. Watching the other girls and knowing that they were suffering as well, and how I always wanted to be free. I tell him about being made to watch what Honey and the other girls did. Then the night he rescued me from the Baron. How Rakis made my skin crawl and how he drugged me, and how all of it led to being with him. But I stop short of talking about what it was like as he tormented me with denial and pleasure. I don't think I could talk about that without begging him to take me, and if that was what he wanted, he'd do it. I don't think I could stand it if he denied me, especially not after feeling this vulnerable with him. I'm glad I saw you and could take you away from that place, he says finally. I won't let anyone harm you. And I believe him. Unreservedly and without doubt, I believe him when he says that he'll protect me, at least from others. Thank you, Your Grace. I think we're past the point where you need to address me like that when it's just you and me. You can just call me Kral. He's not ordering me to stop using the honorific. He's giving me the choice. Thank you, Kral, I say. His name feels strange on my tongue without any title attached to it, but not bad. It's something that I could get used to. If that's sincere gratitude, I want you to answer this question honestly. Can I trust you not to run away if we forgo the chains? He asks. I grab hold of him and pull in close. I'm not going anywhere. When he wraps his arms around me, I feel safe, truly safe and secure for the first time in my life. By the 13, I hope that this can last. I don't know what I would do without this sense of calm I have now.
Chapter 25. Karl Ishiraya. My heart aches for the little girl Amelia used to be, and the things she had to endure, but I feel even more of a kinship now. It's not the same, but we both wrestled with isolation from our peers. Being an outcast can be difficult, but being with her, I can connect with her, and I don't feel so alone anymore. Before, I thought I was best when isolated from others, and without emotions I couldn't feel the loneliness. Still, even just in retrospect, my heart starts to also ache for the boy I was. I can see where keeping people away has done me harm, but it's all different now. I can get close to Amelie. I want to get close to her. I'm still adjusting to feeling things again after all these years, but I'm starting to even appreciate the longing I feel for her after I've been swallowed up in matters of the court. It's strange to think I could enjoy missing her, but there's nothing quite like that moment when I see her after a long day. I never knew that someone could both excite and calm me in equal measure. Good evening, Amelie, I say as I return to her chamber. She quickly stuffs something into a drawer and slams it shut. Good evening, Kral. I raise an eyebrow and nod towards the drawer. Is that something I need to be concerned about? Secrets? Her skin flushes. Not secrets. A surprise. There's a difference. I can't help but smile, and when she smiles back at me, I feel my heart melt. I'd do anything to see her smile. The way it sets my heart beating faster is exhilarating. All at once, it's like the world has shifted, but nothing has changed as I ask myself, is this love? The feeling causes my magic to flow around me, but this isn't the way it explodes for me when I'm torn up by anger. When it's all rage, my magic is all instinct and instant action. It's like getting swept up in the current, with each passing thought becoming the will required to direct the magic. Here, with her, my heart brimming with this sense of energetic tranquility, I feel my magic surrounding me, but instead of seeking out a way to fulfill my desire, it waits, something like an obedient, but still dangerous pet. This emotion, which I'm now convinced must be love, doesn't drive me to madness. Instead, it gives me a reason to seek control because I don't want to put her in danger. I want to protect her, provide for her, and fulfill her desires. I love Amelie. We enjoy our dinner together, and it's great to see her eating now. She finally told me she was nervous, and it made her hesitant to eat. After dinner, as we lay in bed together, I feel like I need to let her know. Amelie, I start, and then my mouth goes dry. Yes? I like this, I say, pulling her into me, my chest to her back. I do too. I want you to understand what you mean to me. I want to start with apologizing for frightening you before. I was out of control when you left, and even before then when I first brought you here. You've already apologized, she says. Yes, but you deserve to know why. You see, the problem was you made me feel. There's a long pause before she asks, Feel what? Anything, I reply. She turns around in the bed to face me, her furrowed brow revealed in the soft light of the moon through the window. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I don't understand. Ever since my childhood, I've felt nothing. No emotions. Her lips press into a thin line. I've heard rumors, she admits. I take a deep breath, needing her to know the truth, and not what others whisper behind my back. I had trouble controlling my emotions as a child, and when I'd get angry, my magic would explode, and it's difficult to admit, but I really hurt some people. Childhood playmates, friends, castle servants. And so I was brought to the high priest, and they performed a ritual that locked my emotions away. Oh no, that must have been so horrible for you. I can't suppress a bitter laugh. I think the worst part was, it didn't feel that way because I couldn't feel anything. How do you form friendships if you can't feel anything? I didn't. No one wants to play with the kid literally incapable of having a good time. I can't imagine what that must have been like. It didn't seem so bad at the time, but that was because I had no emotions. But looking back now, it's obvious the damage it's done. Did your parents not consider those consequences? I don't know. They were already aloof as a default, and I think they were terrified to show any uncertainty or weakness. If they had doubts about their plan, they never discussed them with me. They just brought me to the high priest, and then that was that. One day I was an angry kid, and the next, nothing. This can't have been their first choice, she says. They tried various tutors and other methods, but I think they believed I was growing too powerful, too fast. They did this to you because your magic made you dangerous. Am I in danger because I make you feel things? No. No. Not now. I finally understand what's going on with me. I finally understand my feelings for you. Her eyes sparkle with anticipation. And what are your feelings for me? With you, I know someone understands me. I'm not alone like I always have been, and I can finally trust someone. Her eyes shine with tears. I'm glad that you did find me, she whispers. I lean into her, and our lips meet, and I can feel the power rising in me. But this time it's only rising to the surface, not threatening to spill over. I have no need of it, so the power just rests there, ready to be tapped, but not leaping to enact any thought. Which is good because the things I want to do with Amelia are things I want to feel with my own flesh. This scene is about to get too steamy for YouTube's comfort, and as much as we'd love to keep going, their guidelines say we need to stop here.
To continue releasing these free audiobooks on this platform, we've got to play by the rules.
The passion doesn't end here.
Visit worldsofprotheka.com to hear the full, uncut version of this fantasy romance, and every daring moment that YouTube can't handle.
Use code YouTube30 for 30% off unabridged audiobooks in the Worlds of Protheka.
Don't let YouTube hold you back. Immerse yourself in a world of magic, danger, and unfiltered passion.
Protheka's magic is eternal.
Listen unabridged and you'll never want to go back. Chapter 26. Amelia.
Sorry for the interruption. I know you were gearing up for a steamy scene, but it's way too hot for YouTube.
If we want to keep sharing our stories for free, we have to abide by YouTube's guidelines.
To get the full unabridged audiobook, go to worldsofprotheka.com.
Browse through unabridged audiobooks, countless ebooks, and bundles offered at a discount.
If the thought of me whispering all the dirty details into your ear isn't enticing enough, use discount code YouTube30 to get 30% off of all digital products.
Story after story, audiobook after audiobook, the Worlds of Protheka are waiting for you.
Protheka's magic is eternal.
But unabridged, it's unforgettable.
Chapter 27. Karl Ishiraya. A soft morning light streams in through the thin curtains, rousing me gently from a beautiful dream. Amelia is nestled against my side, her breath flitting across my skin in deep sleep. Before I even open my eyes, I can sense her, enjoying the steady rhythm of her heart against my chest. My own heart blooms in response. I'm growing used to the sensation, but it always manages to catch me by surprise, even now. My fingers tangle in her pale blonde hair as I admire the stunning creature that shares my bed. This must be love, I think, the notion warming me to my core. I cannot imagine being without it, without her, and a grim reality sets in. I can already hear my brother's protests. Our subjects will call our pairing unnatural and foul. I was brought up to consider humans as animals, but now I know there is so much more to them. So much more to my sweet Amelia. I will not abide them, treating her like a slave or a domesticated pet. She deserves to be my equal, and if they will not tolerate her as a duchess, then I will gladly be exiled alongside her. I want her to have security. Slowly, so as not to wake her, I rise from the bed. I lean over and brush my lips against her forehead before adjourning to my closet and finding a proper outfit for the meeting I must have with the king. It doesn't matter what he says. My mind is made up. I smooth down my fine dark suit and pull back my platinum hair so he cannot avoid the sincerity in my eyes. He is not my enemy, but he is subjected to his people's whims, and they will not easily be swayed. Either way, I am ready for the worst of his condemnations. I forgo calling him to the throne room, making my way to his private chambers for this meeting. He should be up at this hour and has not yet presented himself at court. So, I assume he's tucked away in his library, like he always is in the early hours of the morning. My knock brings no response, so I open the door and slip in. There is a light flooding from the hall to his private library, just as I suspected. He knows I'm there even before I alert him to my presence, his head bowed as he flips through an old manuscript. "Karl," he says, shutting the book and turning all his attention on me, surprise and curiosity mingling. "What brings you here at this hour? Come, sit with me, like old times." "I'd rather stand," I say, remaining rigid in my posture. "I've come to talk to you about something important, something close to my heart." His brow furrows. I know how my emotions make those around me nervous, but it is only concern that etches his wise features. "What's wrong?" A smile finds me, but it disappears upon its inception. So much has happened to me in the last few weeks. I don't know where to begin. I put a hand to my chest and rub where it hurts. I've never felt so strongly about anything, anyone. The king rises and comes to me. "You know you can tell me, brother." "The question," I say slowly, "is if you'll forgive me." There is nothing to be forgiven between brothers. He claps my shoulder supportively, meeting my eyes with a stern expression. Tell me, what is on your mind? That look in his eye has remained the same through the years, never flaring into fear like the others. He was always there for me, even before my emotions were locked away by a heavy hand. If you laugh, I will kill you. A wry smile breaks over his features. I swear, I will not laugh. I am the Archduke. How can I be so hesitant? Am I so afraid to destroy my brother's respect for me? I consider it, but the memory of Amelie's sweet face gives me courage I did not know I possessed. I am in love. That is great news. With a human, I finish, interrupting my brother. A wooden silence comes over him, but it is said, and I am less apprehensive to continue. I understand how this will complicate things, so I am willing to abdicate my responsibilities as Archduke forthwith. I will not bring dishonor on your reign, but I will not be swayed from this. I love her, and she loves me. Karl, I know what you're going to say. Believe me, I have rehearsed this conversation in my head all morning. Rare tears come to my eyes, but they do not dissuade me. I cannot look upon his face out of concern that I'll witness his disgust. She has made me happy, brother, and I hope you can respect my decision. A heavy silence ensues. When he breaks it, his tone is equally weighted. I cannot accept it. I meet his gaze in surprise. I did not expect he would take it well, but I did not think he would outright refuse me of my deepest desire. But when I find his eyes, they are soft and warm with understanding. I cannot accept your abdication, he continues with more care, because your place is here, with your family. And if this woman makes you happy, then she is your family as well, which makes her my family, and I will not permit either of you to live in exile. You have suffered enough, brother. It is high time that you are allowed to be happy. You have missed out on so much because they sealed your emotions away, and I will not stand in the way of your fulfillment now. Thank you for trusting me with this. Tears chase down my cheeks as I clasp his forearm. He presses his forehead against mine, gripping the nape of my neck. You will not be forced out of your home, Karl. I will not allow it. And what use are we royals if we cannot change the laws that we created? You're serious, I say, levering back to meet his eye again. Deadly, he says in turn, a sharp grin forming. It fades slightly as if he realizes something terrible. But it does not mean we won't face opposition from the council and the commoners. You will have to remain strong in the coming struggle if you are to keep your title and your woman. I issue a stern frown. You know I am. He shakes my shoulder as if testing my resolve, finding me immovable. Maybe this is what the kingdom needs more than anything. It is high time to put these old laws behind us for good, and I think you are just the elf to do it. You have my full support, Karl Ishiraya. Of all the scenarios, I did not imagine he would insist I stay, and that Amelia would be welcome beside me. He's right, though. Our union will draw resistance from even our most steadfast supporters, but it must be done if Amelia is to have a future or any sense of security. Thank you, brother, I whisper, embracing him tightly. It is my deepest honor. He accepts the embrace and squeezes tightly in return. You do not know what a relief it is to have my brother back.
Chapter 28. Amelia. I wake up, and immediately I notice the bed is empty and cold, unlike this morning. I had stirred briefly as the sun rose, but when I opened my eyes to see Karl holding me, I nestled back against him and drifted back off to sleep. Now, there is no one by my side, and I sigh. It doesn't worry me, but I do wish I could get one morning in bed with him. I guess that is the trouble of falling in love with an archduke. I can't suppress my grin as I think that again. I'm in love with him. The realization had hit me as I drifted off to sleep, weaving into my dreams. And even now I cannot deny it. It makes my heart flutter and my stomach flip, and I love the sensation of both. I let it lead me out of bed as I dress, and soon I find myself back in my chambers waiting for him to return. I go to my bedside table where my needles and knit wait and take them to the chair by my window. At first, Karl had been against me tiring myself out with such trivial things. He said he could give me anything I wanted, and I need not worry myself with making them. It took me a long time to wear him down and show him that I would go stir crazy without something to do. Eventually, he saw how much it eased my mind, and ever since he has been encouraging my endeavours to explore myself as I've only ever been a prisoner. He's been supplying me with many hobbies to test out, telling me he wants to know whatever makes me happiest. I've enjoyed the knitting, and I work furiously on it while I wait for him to return. I know he'll come back, and it gives me comfort as I loop the yarn together, watching the way it forms to create something beautiful. That's what I love about knitting. I take two things that are plain in their own aspects, and I bind them together, weaving them between each other until their combined efforts are something more. Maybe that's what I hope to receive from Karl. I smile at the project, glad that it's finally taking form. I've been designing gloves for him in the harsh cold of most Voig mornings. I don't think he's noticed the shape they've taken on, and I'm thankful for that. I want it to be a surprise. I've never been good with words given my upbringing. Over time, I learned to squash my emotions and behave obediently. I built walls up between that voice in my head, telling me that what I was doing was wrong. With all that training, I've struggled with the way I feel around Karl. I know that I love him, but I have no idea how to tell him. I also fear what he will say when I do, so I'm leaning on what I do know, actions. I hope that if I give him these gloves as a sign of affection, he will accept them, and it will make it clear to him. I just know that I have to tell him in some way before holding it in drives me mad. This is the only way I know how to confess to him. I'm afraid that if I say it any more clearly, if I make him face the way I care for him, then he will change his treatment of me. I don't want that, and so I'll make him gloves and pray that he loves me the way that I love him. From my window, I spot Karl as he approaches the front entrance, his platinum hair shining in the bright rays of the sun. My heart leaps, and I forget all my worries, dropping the gloves in my chair. I dash out of the room, unable to contain my excitement. I'm too eager to see him, and I barely catch myself as I stop at the top of the staircase that leads to the front door. I'll be the first thing he sees when he comes in. The smile on my face quickly wavers as I realise that I hadn't stopped as far from the edge of the upper floor as I thought. My ribs crack against the banister as my body tips violently forward, and I am tossed over the railing by a force that seems much stronger than gravity. I scream as the air rips my hair back from my face, and just as my toes leave the ground, the front doors swing open. Just like the first time we ever met, his eyes catch mine, and I can't help thinking how remarkable they are. They are the most gorgeous eyes I have ever seen, and they fill me with peace as I let my eyes close. I know that from the height of the second floor and the hard stone of the first that this fall will kill me. As I tumble through the air, I know that it will crack against my head, and so I block out everything around me, refusing to let fear be the last thing I feel. Instead, I think only of Karl's eyes. I let my love for him pour through me, and I accept the end that I am tumbling toward. Only I don't slam into the ground. Instead, a pair of strong arms encircle my body, breaking my fall as I am pressed against a familiar chest. I soak in his scent, and as the realization sets in that he saved me, a broken cry escapes my throat. Karl holds me against him tighter, planting kisses all over my wet face. It only makes me want to cry harder, but I try to fight it as he starts to carry me back upstairs. I'm confused when he passes my room, but I don't protest. Instead, I cling to him, eager to be with him. I'm a little surprised when he kicks open the door to his room, but it doesn't bother me as he gently lays me back on his bed. I try to push up on my elbows, but he shakes his head at me. He cups my face, placing a long, sweet kiss to my lips, before roaming his hands down my body. At first, I feel a pinprick of excitement before realizing that he's inspecting me. A whisper of a laugh leaves my lips. I'm okay, I tell him. I need to be sure of it, he mutters, his hands still working down my body. He's feeling everything, checking for any soreness, and when he finally finishes and sees that I'm not hurt, he nearly collapses to the ground. I crawl to the edge of the bed, uncertain of what to do, and he tilts his head back to look at me. He's kneeling, but he's still so tall that our noses are almost touching. I'm engulfed in those gorgeous eyes, and for a second, I think he's going to kiss me before he breathes the 3 most glorious words I've ever heard. I love you. It feels like time stops still as he says it, but then he brings his hands up to my face, cupping my cheeks, and he tells me, I love you, Amelia, and I don't want you to be with me out of obligation anymore. I want you to be by my side as my equal. I want you to be my mate. His fingers are trembling against my skin, catching all the tears that are now so effortlessly flowing down my cheeks. It hurts to breathe as I listen to him, and I can see a spark of fear as he asks me, Will you, Amelia, be my mate? The tears only gain speed as I start to cry harder, and he starts to pull away from me when I finally find my words. Yes. He freezes, staring up at me. I've been wanting to tell you that I love you, and I do. Oh, I love you so much. I forget for a moment that I'm on the bed, and I throw myself against him, sending us both toppling to the floor. He catches me, pressing a kiss to my lips as he slams backwards, and still, his lips don't leave mine. There's nothing that could stop us.
Chapter 29. Karl Ishiraya. The promise of forever having Amelia by my side fills me with a joy I can hardly comprehend. Since the proposal, she's thrown herself into wedding planning. I know my brother has stipulations regarding the grandiosity and guest list of the event, but my first order of business is informing the house. I'm sure wedding preparations will keep Amelia busy long enough for me to make the proper arrangements in the house. I don't want anything to steal the smile from her face, and I'm certain this meeting would do just that. I allow my magic to swing open the drawing room doors to reveal the members of my house. Every maid, cook, servant, and guard is here, just as I requested. As members of this house, you will have a busy next 2 weeks. Amelia and I are to marry, I announce, loosening my hold on my magic sum to discourage any rash reactions. It isn't difficult to take note of those who seem especially displeased by the news, and I file away their names and faces for later. As long as they stay in line, there will be no issue. And to ensure they stay in line, and that Amelia is safe, there's one more reason for this meeting. Inirna. My voice, the very air in the drawing room, crackles with arcane power as I try to control the rage that swells at the sight of the maid. Inirna steps forward, her head bowed, shaking with fear. There's no doubt she knows why she's been called forward. My lord, Inirna squeaks as she drops into a low curtsy. I have to fight the urge to send her flying. To do so would ruin a good opportunity to set an example, I tell myself as I grit my teeth. The penalty for a crime against the royal family is death. You made an attempt on Amelia's life the day you pushed her off the stairs, and as my mate, she is a member of the royal family. Inirna's knees give out beneath her as she cries, It was an accident, I slipped. You dare lie to me, girl! I roar, my voice becoming many, reverberating through the room as my hold on my magic slips. Inirna let out a strangled sob, but the pitiful sight stirs nothing in me. Your corpse will be monster fodder. Get her out of my sight, I command, reining my power in as I turn away from the maid. The rest of the servants seem to understand the gravity of the situation, and not a single one casts a glance at Inirna as she's dragged from the room, kicking and sobbing by 2 guards. Amelia will be the lady of this house, sister to the king. You will treat her with every ounce of respect you do me, under threat of your lives. I continue, using years of practice to maintain an even tone. She is kind, gentle, forgiving. I am not. I turn on my heel, leaving all but my butler standing in the drawing room. Send notices of the upcoming union to every noble family in the city, I say as he falls dutifully into step behind me, matching my pace as we head for my study. I start to dismiss him when something occurs to me. On second thought, I muse, a smile taking shape. Send notices of the upcoming union to every noble family, on this continent and the others. Today is the day. The palace has been a hub of activity, servants running back and forth, carrying bolts of fabric and massive platters of food. I can't help but feel nervous standing here in the rich navy suit and gold epaulets that are traditional for a royal wedding, waiting to see Amelia. While it's an uncomfortable and rather silly feeling, I'm happy I'm able to feel it at all. Amelia had all but shoved me from her room last night, citing some silly human tradition. I wonder if she's nervous too. A rhythmic drum beat begins in the distance, and I smooth my hands over my platinum hair. That's my cue. Amelia had chosen the garden where we used to take our walks as the spot for our ceremony, much to my delight. Grimlock had conceded, likely because it's one of the few areas that can house all the guests we invited. The drum beat is louder now, vibrating in my chest as I cross into the garden. The servants, at Amelia and Grimlock's direction, have outdone themselves. Hundreds of dark elves sit in gilded gold chairs amongst the rows of permanently blooming flowers in shades of pale pink, deep marigold, and sunset orange. Thousands of golden candles hover in the air, hanging in the sky like stars above the garden, with a heavy concentration around the altar. Luxurious silk and chiffon in shades of cream and ivory pool across the grass as I walk up to the altar, framed by an alcove of 3 massive mirrors in ornate, golden frames. As I reach the alcove, I bow deeply, paying homage to the deceiver as he uses the mirrors as a gateway to witness our union. I turn my back on my reflection and face the crowd, trying to look past the hundreds of faces to the doors where I know Amelia will appear. Most of the people in the chairs want to be here as little as I want them here. They're here only at the request of their king, or to ogle like they're at a zoo. The delicate notes of a harp fill the warm garden, twining with the rhythmic drum beats. My mouth suddenly goes dry as she appears in the doorway. Amelia is a work of art in her gown. The sheer tulle of the dress clings to her delicate collarbones and down the length of her arms, lending a touch of modesty to an otherwise immodest neckline that brushes the center of her sternum. Everyone around us fades as I fight to keep my mouth closed and the air in my lungs. Amelia practically glows under the candlelight, looking more like a fallen star or the mother herself than the human woman I am so madly in love with. I can't help the tears springing to my eyes. After so many years without emotion, she brings every emotion to the surface simply by taking a breath. I know the High Priest is speaking, but I can't take my eyes off Amelia. Those beautiful cherry lips are turned up in a small, sweet smile as her pale blue eyes appraise me. Her cheeks are a rosier color than usual, likely due to the audience we have, and I can't help brushing my fingers over the stain of color. Beloved, I seek to know of you, and ask of the 13 that I be given the wisdom to see you as you are, and love you as a mystery, I say, reaching out to grasp the inside of her right wrist. Her small hand grips my arm, giving a slight squeeze as she repeats the words. I pledge to you my living and my dying, each equally in your care, Amelia says tenderly, as the High Priest wraps the heavy hand-fasting cord across our arms. I echo her pledge, still fixated on her face. You cannot possess me, for I belong to myself, but while we both wish it, I give you that which is mine to give, we say together. Above you are the stars, and below you the earth. Like the stars, your love should be a constant source of light, and like the earth, a firm foundation from which to grow, the priest declares as he ties the knot. The second the knot is firm around our bound arms, the night sky flashes bright as day. There are gasps and shouts from the crowd as somebody stands up and points at the mirrors behind us. My head whips around to see what could cause such a commotion, when I realize that everyone else in the mirror has disappeared. Only Amelia and I are visible, captured in the moment our hand-fasting was complete, as if in a painting. "The deceiver has seen this union," comes a cry from the priest, "and approves."
From the depths of the darkness of Protheka
Or clawing up from the realms of fantasy.
come the most fearsome beasts you have ever seen.
These monsters are done watching from the shadows.
Now, as they step into the light, something unexpected grips them.
Something even they can't fight off.
Love,
Vampires.
demons,
Dark elves.
gods.
Minotaurs. Creatures of light and dark.
They will protect their mates.
Do whatever needs to be done.
Morally grey heroes who will burn the world to protect the women who love them.
10 audiobooks.
Fall into over 60 hours of fantasy romance.
20 ebooks.
Over 1 million words of these brutes who will protect their women.
Even if they might destroy themselves in the process.
Get the immersive Protheka fantasy romance bundle.
For 80% off, right now, dive into Protheka at a once-in-a-lifetime discount.
The first bundle to offer both ebooks and audiobooks on worldsofprotheka.com. Protheka's magic is eternal, and this romantasy bundle will make it endless. Chapter 30. Amelia. After a dramatic end to our ceremony, the evening seems to pass in a blur. It's always been fascinating to me, the way Kral can command a room, but with Grimlock beside him and the Deceiver's stamp of approval, every person in attendance is practically throwing themselves at his feet. His spine straight, Kral weathers the grovelling honourably. I suspect only Grimlock and I know how uncomfortable this kind of attention makes him. Naturally, King Grimlock receives the same treatment, and since I'm between them, every guest, with varying degrees of warmth, acknowledges me as well. At best, I receive a bow or curtsy. At worst, stiff nods as their eyes pass over me. In truth, none of it bothers me. If I had it my way, I'd have had Kral in our quarters hours ago. He looks absolutely stunning tonight, even more so than usual, the rich navy of his suit and the shimmering gold epaulets offsetting his already striking platinum hair and deep skin. Grimlock has mistaken my detachment from the procession for displeasure, I realise, as he places a brotherly hand on my shoulder. "That was Lord Bayrow," Grimlock mutters discreetly, motioning towards the latest guest to approach us. "Pay him no mind. He's a man of few words and even fewer thoughts." The giggle bursts out of me before I can stop it, and I have to clamp a hand over my mouth to stifle the sound. My brother-in-law grins widely at me before turning his attention back to the procession. A few months ago, I never would have imagined there were dark elves that weren't wholly evil. Yet here I was, having found a family I'd only dreamed of among two of the most powerful elves in existence. My eyes wander back towards Kral, and a thrill of satisfaction jolts down my spine when I realise he's already looking at me. He nods towards the garden doors, a request I'm all too happy to oblige. Grimlock, seeing the interaction out of the corner of his eye, extricates himself from his current conversation and turns to the two of us with a smile. "Honestly, I'm surprised you made it this long," he teases his brother. The evident affection between the two of them makes my heart swell. After all that Kral has been through, his brother's love means more to him than I think either of them know. "And good night to you, dear sister," Grimlock says to me with a playfully mocking bow. I sink into an equally sarcastic curtsy before Kral scoops me into his arms. I shriek at the sudden motion, and his chest rumbles with laughter as we blink out of the gardens and into the hall outside of our quarters. "You know I hate when you do that," I grumble into him, waiting for my stomach to catch up with us. "You'll have to get used to it, Archduchess Ishiraya," Kral murmurs next to my ear. Responding goosebumps race down my arms as he kicks open the doors of our quarters, carrying me over the threshold. We are finally, deliciously, alone. I wait for Kral to set me down but he holds me tightly, pressing gentle kisses along the crown of my head and down my cheekbones as we enter the bedroom. He places me worshipfully on the edge of our bed. "It's almost a shame to take you out of this dress," he breathes as his fingers make quick work of the buttons down my back. Almost. I fight the instinct to rip at his coat, wanting him to see the surprise I picked out for him first. Karl lets out a sudden hiss, taking a step back from me. For a moment I worry that he's upset, but the darkening of his features dispels my concern. If this is what I have to look forward to for the rest of my life, I'll count myself among the lucky.